It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Great panel for you. Ben Parr's here. Christina Warren's back. Micah Sargent from Mobile Nations. We're going to talk about addictive algorithms. Is it your fault or Facebook's fault? Google's move towards Bluetooth earbuds. Is it the end of the headphone jack? And another IRS Equifax story that's just going to make your head spin. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 635, recorded Sunday, October 8th, 2017. Benji's Bag of Dongles. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter the promo code TWIT to save 20% off any order. And by Fracture, a photo decor company that prints your photos directly onto glass and gets delivered to your door ready to display right out of the box. Visit fracture.me and use the code TWIT15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And by ZipRecruiter. Are you looking to hire a tech professional? With ZipRecruiter, you can post to 100-plus job boards, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter free at ziprecruiter.com/twit. And by Rocket Mortgage. By Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/twit2. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show we cover the latest tech news. We have assembled an odd panel today. I think this is going to be very interesting. To my left, Mr. Ben Parr, author of Captivology, the science of capturing people's attention. I first met Ben when he was at Mashable.
Yep.
You left very kind of famously, left Mashable to pursue
investing, startups,
yeah.
you know.
And how's it gone?
Seems to be doing well.
Octane.ai is your new thing. What is that?
It is a company that lets you communicate with your customers over Facebook Messenger.
You were showing me how
L'Oreal uses it.
L'Oreal or famous people?
Yep, like Maroon 5 and 30 Seconds to Mars. So I went from this like journalism to the book to investing to the book to the startup. So I kind of do a lot of things. So
I think a lot of people in tech journalism look and feel like we're on the sidelines watching all these people make billions of dollars. and I think there's not a few of us. I do not have this problem, but who say, I want to do that. And so you do see people sometimes leave and say, maybe not for the money. I don't think you did it for the money, but to do it because I want to make something. I want to be in the battle instead of watching the battle.
So like Mashable was an accident for me because I was like studying like entrepreneurship in college and took entrepreneurship courses at Northwestern in Chicago. And then I moved out and I just like got lucky with the Mashable thing happening. I got recommended. I got articles. I got to join Christina.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christina Warren's here. This is odd too because we haven't talked to Christina since she left publishing, writing, journalism, and became a Microsoftie. Senior cloud developer advocate at Microsoft, and now a big superstar on Channel 9, Microsoft's in-house TV system.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I don't know, but I don't know about superstar. Well, so it's new actually. So for the first 3 or 4 months that I was at Microsoft, I was a senior content PM on a product called Microsoft Virtual Academy, which is like free online training in a variety of subjects targeted to developers and IT pros. And as of last week, I'm now on the Cloud Developer Advocate team, which is a new team at Microsoft that basically we kind of sit between PMs and I guess like what you would traditionally call evangelists. And the idea is basically for us to kind of communicate with the public. We have they've hired a ton of really smart people from the community and from within Microsoft to kind of find out from customers, what's the stuff that you need, what's important to you, listen to their feedback, be part of the community and then bring that stuff back to the people who are actually making the products. And then my role is, as I'm working a lot with the video teams on Channel 9 and with the docs team, and I'll be creating a lot of videos for Channel 9, going to events, also maybe working with some of the other cloud developer advocates to, visually kind of, bring stuff out there. So that's my new job.
So how is it working at Microsoft? I mean, from within now, you're seeing it from within. Is it what you imagined, or is it different from how you imagined, or?
Well, I didn't really have a lot of, I wasn't really sure, when I started, when I got the job offer, it was kind of, or when I got the first, I guess, like feeler to say, would you be interested in this? I was like, well, that's kind of interesting.
So they approached you, they headhunted you.
Yeah, they headhunted me. And because I'll be honest, I don't know if I would have been confident enough to even think, oh, with my journalism background, I can be a PM and I can, not have a role that's in comms or in marketing. And there's not to say that there's anything wrong with those, and people who do that stuff are incredible. But I just always thought that if I wasn't going to be doing something like that I wouldn't have a place to fit at a bigger tech company. And so when they approached me and I kind of learned more about my first role and now that I'm in my new team, kind of learning about what I was doing, I was like, well, this is interesting. But when I got to Microsoft, what I found is, and we've seen that, I saw this as an outsider, as a reporter, how, the company has kind of changed in the last few years. The new CEO, kind of a new
credit to Satya Nadella for really re-steering the ship and doing, I think, a brilliant job of it.
He deserves some
I agree. He deserves tremendous credit. And I think you see it internally too, where even people who've been there a long time kind of comment on how, it's a newer Microsoft. And obviously, every big company has their kind of microcosms within different departments and different teams. But the teams that I've observed, it's very different than what I expected. When I've talked to people who've worked at other tech companies, a lot of times there's like no, balance between work life and personal life. And I'm sure that on some teams that's probably true, but at least where I've been and people I work with, people leave at a normal time every day, which is great to see. And it's not one of those like,
it's not what you expected. 9 to 5, really?
9 to 5.
Right, exactly. Which, as a journalist, like I didn't have 9 to 5,
right.
And so it's weirdly that I had to go to like work at a big tech company, work for a giant corporation to have like an actual place to have free time. It's kind of funny.
Well, so Micah and I are looking at and thinking, what did we go wrong here? We're still we're still stuck in the media. Micah Sargent's here. He's senior editor with Mobile Nation's sister publication to our good friends at iMore. It's great to have you on. Micah's been on TNT many times, but I think this is first time with me anyway. You've been on Twitter. I think you were on when I was on vacation.
Yes. First time here with you. Happy to hang out. Yeah.
A podcaster. You do Cartoon Cast with a woman named Christina Warren.
Yes, you'll see that we're about to make our triumphant return. It's we've been on hiatus for a little while, but that's about to restart up as we're getting into the October months, and we've got some spooky Halloween stuff going on. So
is it about cartoons?
Yeah, I mean, okay, here's the thing: is like adults, there's like this stigma with adults like enjoying and talking about and loving cartoons. And Christina Warren and I are both like unashamedly in love with cartoons, like Bob's Burgers, the shows for adults, but also the ones that are like for kids.
Oh, yeah.
We had the guy who is the voice actor on a cartoon show called Clarence, which is a show directed at kids, but we loved it. And, we brought him on and interviewed him. And it's just, it's the very official Fart Meetings episode. And anyway, we're not ashamed to proclaim our love for cartoons. So she and I talk about different shows that we've watched when, that the older shows, newer shows, just all the cartoons are all good. But
I realized this when I think it was you, Christina, who had the Louise costume.
Yes.
One Halloween, and I thought, oh, she's a cartoon fan.
Yep. I found those ears. I was cleaning the other day, and I found those ears, and I was like, "Yep, not getting rid of them.
No,
gotta keep."
No, it's recycling.
Well, there's going to be a movie now soon. I was just hearing about
really?
it. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I did just see that.
Oh, how exciting! Anyway, the reason this is kind of an idiosyncratic panel, but everybody knows everybody. It's a thrill to have you all. You're all good friends. Just kind of a little different. Somebody who works for Microsoft, somebody who's a startup guy, and then me and Micah. So
the journalist of the podcast.
The journalist, oh God. So I don't know. What do you want to talk about? We could do the traditional thing, which is run down 9 products that Google announced on Wednesday, and I guess we'll probably get to that. Or we could talk about the Guardian article. I think I'm going to start with the Guardian article, interviewing a number of Silicon Valley folks who have decided, well, they feel guilty. Our minds have been hijacked, they say. It features the guy who wrote the like button on Facebook, saying that he now, when he gets a smartphone, has his assistant turn on parental controls so he can't install stuff onto this. He says it's dangerously addictive, and I'm just wondering. I mean, this is Justin Rosenstein. They interview a number of people for this piece, and I think that this is kind of going on right now in Silicon Valley. A number of people. I remember Steve Jobs said, "I'd never let my kids have an iPad or an iPhone."
Yeah,
and
Johnny Ive just said something about
time frames, like where his kids can do it, can use any device or can't.
Right. What did Johnny Ive say?
Johnny Ive just recently said something about how we're spending too much time on our phones. I can't remember where he was being interviewed, but
the New Yorker Festival.
The New Yorker
Festival. David Remnick interviewed him. I think it was Friday. Yeah.
Tristan Harris, a former Google employee, says all of us are jacked into the system. All of our minds can be hijacked. Our choices are not as free as we think they are. He has been, according to The Guardian, branded as the closest thing Silicon Valley has to a conscience.
He's a friend. He has been on a roll with this. Like the whole article is really going down into like an area that I did research, which is like the science of attention in a lot of ways.
Well, it starts with Nir Eyal and his Hooked book, and I've interviewed Nir on Triangulation. He wrote a book that is a roadmap for how to addict people to your app or website. How to build habit-forming products. It's called Hooked. And he studied, as did Harris, with a guy at Stanford named B.J. Fogg, and that's where this all begins. He's a behavioral scientist, and apparently was the first to say, we can use technological design to persuade people, to hook people. You were a World of Warcraft fanatic, right, Christina?
No, I mean, I played.
You never got addicted?
No, okay. No. But I know people who did.
I know many people who did.
And before that, what was it? EverQuest? People used to call it like Evercrack. Like, I mean, there's. But what I have been addicted to have been like the stupid, other games on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've spent actual money on Candy Crush Saga and things like that. You know
but
what
it's
I mean?
not your fault, because all of this stuff is cleverly designed. I mean, I use World of Warcraft as an example because they have all the data. They watch. They know exactly what you're doing in the war. And when you play that game, you're playing it online, so you're playing it on their servers, so they know exactly what everybody does, and they can optimize for stickiness. And that's really what's happening. This is timely because Facebook, the chief security officer at Facebook, did a tweet storm yesterday. Saying, you guys don't understand how hard it is. Facebook's a really good example. And I don't think Facebook's doing it nefariously. I think some people do. I don't think they are. I think Facebook optimizes, as any company should, for profit. And the way Facebook optimizes for profit is by having an algorithm that designs the news feed to make it stickier, right? To keep you on it, to keep you sharing and liking, and they know they have all the data points to optimize it. And they don't I don't think they're paying at this point particular attention to the political or long-range impact of this. I think they may be forced to.
I think they're going to be forced to, because of all the inquiries that are coming up. And there are open questions about saying, okay, if we have certain regulations around the sort of political speech and advertisements that are on, broadcast television or on cable or whatever, should those things be extended, or should we be at least looking about how they're being put about on online networks, especially when so much of the ad traffic is controlled by, Facebook and by Google. And as you said, they have so much information that they can kind of do. I thought, Alex from Facebook, I'm with you. I don't think that they are nefarious by choice. You know what I mean? I don't look at what they're doing.
They're doing what every company does. They're optimizing for profit. Mm-hmm.
Totally. But I do think that it was his tweet storm was a little bit disingenuous, in that he's kind of complaining and saying it's really hard to get the full story out and journalists aren't doing this the right way. And as a number of journalists pointed out, and as I can say as someone who was a journalist until just a couple months ago, Facebook is a really hard company to get a straight answer from. They always have been. It's become even increasingly more difficult as time has gone on and as they become bigger and bigger. So it's not that people don't want to tell the stories, that they'll reach out to Facebook, and his own people won't let him talk to people. It's like people would love nothing more than to have a sit down, very candid conversation with Alex Stamos about how this stuff really works. They would not love nothing more than to let Facebook explain things, but the company won't talk. And so it's a little disingenuous to say the reporting isn't getting the nuances right when the company itself won't actually engage with the reporters.
Doesn't Facebook guard the algorithm like Coca-Cola guards the recipe?
Of course, of course.
Original recipe.
All of it. But
yeah, and Facebook does. I mean, Google does too. But I think you can guard the algorithm and can still have a conversation about how things work and about what's actually going on.
Here's the impact will be like on the long term societal impact and political impact. Like, I feel like we're coming more and more to the realization that human beings are manipulative. Are easily manipulated by different kinds of cues and different kinds of signals and different subconscious biases that are hard for us to admit that like we can be really influenced by things as simple as like they talk about in the article how changing the notification from blue to red and the notification thing instantly changed how often people click the notification button. Small things like that have such major, incredible impact.
Yeah, the Guardian pointed out that you're seeing red badges everywhere now on your iPhone and everywhere because red is that's why all these red dots on the iPhone, because red is a call to action. It's something you see. Blue you wouldn't react to, but red is a hot color. So they're using it. Does that mean that Apple is trying to manipulate you? No, they're just trying to...
They're optimizing.
They're optimizing.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, and I'd love to hear... And Alex, if you want to be on the show anytime, I have a huge respect for you. Alex Stamos was the chief of security at Yahoo when they were broken into for 3 billion records. But he left because he said, Marissa didn't tell me. And now he's at Facebook doing the same thing, CSO. But I do have huge respect. He's very well respected in the community. But here's the reason people are concerned about this, Alex. It is a mysterious secret algorithm. I would grant you, and I think we all agree, it's optimized for profit right now. But who's to say that it wouldn't be tuned to do something else? For instance, elect Mark Zuckerberg president.
Right, it could be, and that's the concern there. And I think, when we were talking about sort of the doing this nefariously, certainly not like actively nefariously, but through ignorance or through almost ignoring just the fact that this has happened. I mean, we had Mark Zuckerberg sort of saying, "Oh no, there was no influence on anything because of the way that the algorithm was set up," and now that's sort of being backtracked. And we're seeing Twitter too, where we're seeing that these different bots that existed help to spread news from certain organizations, foreign organizations, and things like that. And so it's clear that these social media networks and these apps and things like that, they can be used in nefarious ways. And if you ignore that or you sort of tend to disagree with the data, if you have the data to back it up, then as Christina Warren's saying, like, let's share that data. And if you don't have the data to back it up, then maybe listen to the people who are paying attention to this and who are, collecting that data and say, okay, we can't just keep, twiddling our thumbs and ignoring this stuff. We have to pay attention to it because we're clearly making a huge difference and we're making behavioral changes to people.
I also would tell Alex, that's the concern, is what the algorithm's doing and why and what it could be used to do later. He sets up a straw man, maybe it's not a straw man, saying, you guys in the press think it would be so easy to design an algorithm that would find fake news. Well, I want to tell you, it's really hard. Well, I believe it. In fact, I've always said, of course it's going to be hard. One person's fake news is another person's rock truth. And it would be very difficult. And so I don't blame Facebook for that, but I do think, going back to our original question, Facebook is designed to become more addictive. And ultimately, there is power there, and Google too. And that power isn't necessarily being misused now, but could be, could it not, misused.
So it does lead to another question, which I'd be curious what the panel would think. Both Steve Bannon and Democrats proposed the idea of things like Facebook becoming like utilities, being more managed or more regulated. Is that a good idea? Is that a terrible idea? Because I feel like that's the course that this seems to be going down in some way.
No, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it becomes an interesting question. I do think that if you do want to have actually any sort of regulations of that stuff, it would have to be treated as a utility. But that could go.
God, you don't want the government to have control of the algorithm.
That's
terrible.
That's even
of course,
worse.
But there's a difference between the government having the control of the algorithm and the government putting in sanctions about how certain things can be done. Again, like the broadcast networks, that's considered a utility. So it's, there are equal time rules. When it comes to election.
Did you see the equal time tweet today?
There haven't been equal time rules in some time. Did Trump tweet about equal time?
Yeah, he did today.
Yeah,
what does he want?
Equal time. He thinks it's unfair how much equal time he doesn't get.
What?
It's on his Twitter.
What?
And then Bob Corker tweeted is like, looks like that the
president is optimized for attention. He's exactly like the news algorithm. He's designed for stickiness. He gets more coverage than anybody.
Yes, he does.
Right.
Maybe it's not exactly coverage he would like or can control.
Right.
But
I'm not opposed in theory to companies having to be more transparent about how information is collected and about what they're doing with it. But I don't. I'm uncomfortable with the fact of saying that the government's going to regulate a service like Facebook or a search engine like Google.
I don't even know what rules you would make.
I don't. I mean, well, we've seen what's happened already in the EU with Google, and Google has had to, and Microsoft, my employers, had to do things too, where you have to, abide by certain privacy standards, and you have to abide by other rules, and it can make it difficult to operate. And I don't know if that would be a net positive. I also, in all realize, like the current FCC, I don't think would ever approve that. I mean, they're already looking at basically dismantling, net neutrality and making the internet a utility. I can't see them taking the going a level beyond that, which would be to
the
start.
opposite. Yeah.
Think about the entertainment industry, though. Like the movie industry and also video game industry said, oh dear, the government is like on its way to come in and regulate us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up these movie rating systems, R, PG, PG-13, et cetera. And we're going to do that ourselves. We're going to regulate ourselves, and we're going to be very forward about that. And then the government said, okay, we can keep our hands off. That's what I want to see these different companies do.
I think
they take care of it themselves.
That's what's going on right now, isn't it? I mean, that's exactly what's going on right now. Facebook is finally cooperating with Congress after months and Twitter of denying. Facebook denied that they had any influence from Russia, that Russia bought any ads for months, and then finally said, oh yeah, here's a few thousand. This was on 60 Minutes last, or actually it says October 6th. Trump campaign director Brad Parscale talking with Leslie Stahl, I guess it'll be on tonight, said that Facebook and Twitter, by the way, and Google embedded employees in the Trump campaign to help them maximize their effectiveness. Furthermore, he says, now this, I'm not surprised to hear the first. Of course, Google, if you're a big customer, you're spending a lot of money on advertising, Google will help you. They'll send a salesperson.
I agree. I think that saying embedded is a little bit off there, right? Because really what it is that you're a big customer and they're doing what they can to make sure that your buys are effective. It's not the same thing as saying, oh, we're actively working to, no, you're just making sure that
Parscale says that he screened them he said they better be Republicans, and he screened them to make sure they were Trump supporters. That I don't credit. That I don't. That's BS. So that's not surprising, though, right?
I think he would have tried.
He would have tried.
This is a
Yeah, I'm a supporter. I'm a Republican. Fine. Yeah.
This is a practice that these companies have done for a while. I had a friend who was one of these people, like a liaison to one of the big campaigns. Maybe
I'm sure they did the same thing for the Clinton campaign.
Oh yeah, they totally did.
Of course they did.
If you're buying enough ads, they're going to come and help you. And they want you to buy more ads.
Yes.
Right.
So Alex, come on the show. Alex, I'd love to have you. I'd love to hear your point of view. I think you're wrong about assuming the press doesn't understand how hard it would be to detect fake news. I think there's a big drumbeat for Facebook should detect fake news. I agree. That's a very difficult thing to do. I don't know how you would even approach that. Facebook is putting a more info button now on articles where you can find out more about the source, which I think is a good start.
Yep.
That's a safe, fair start. Part of the newsfeed update, they're going to give you context. When you click a button, you'll see information from the publisher's Wikipedia page, a link to follow that publisher's Facebook page, and other links that might be related. You know what else I'd like to see Facebook do? They haven't done as yet. They have given Congress those Russian purchased ads in the campaign. It seems very simple for Facebook, and I'm not sure why they wouldn't do this, to have a database of all the people buying ads and all the ads they bought. Because part of the problem is these are dark ads. When Russia buys an ad, only the very specifically targeted people see them and not the rest of us. So we don't know what influence is trying to be exerted. That would be easy for Facebook to do. I think that Congress needs to at least suggest they do that. Maybe they'll do it voluntarily.
You know, with that first thing, that the more info button, the context, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be a mean press person right now and say I think those are good ideas, and there aren't direct solutions that I can offer. But I think for the most part, a lot of those things are a tiny bit an empty gesture. And the reason I think that is because you can go to any. I mean, Christina, I'm sure you can cite plenty of articles. Ben, you could cite plenty of articles. We can all cite plenty of articles where you literally have people asking in the comments of an article something that is answered in the article. People read headlines. They maybe read 140 character tweets. They don't click more info buttons. When we were doing data studies to try and figure out how best to optimize our social media posts and things like that, if you have a Facebook post where you have to click that more button, like 98% of people don't even click that more button to see more text. Nobody's looking for more info. They're just looking at that first thing, and then they have the information. That's the problem with fake news.
People are just looking for stuff that reinforces their beliefs anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't really matter. I don't know if fake news is as big of a problem as it was made out to be. I think there are other issues.
I think it creates an echo chamber, and it can.
But that's there anyway.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I think if you start hearing the same things over and over again, you start reading the same things over and over again, your reality can become warped.
The point of view that somebody has who watches MSNBC for their news versus somebody who watches Fox for their news, they are in different countries. They are in different universes, right?
Yes, but I'm more concerned about people who already have their opinions laid. You know, so kids who are watching YouTube all the time, who now have views warped by YouTubers who have certain opinions, or people who are.
Do you want PewDiePie to teach your kids how to talk about things?
There's a whole piece of this of the YouTube world that is like there's a whole alt-right section of YouTube that does not probably highlighted to most of us, but is totally. I've seen other ones, and like on the other hand, there's like completely left.
And there's Islamic terrorist YouTube videos designed to convince people to become terrorists. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube that we don't see. It plays to the people who are kind of already in that camp, I would guess, right? It's not. They're not. Are they persuasive?
It can intensify your beliefs, though. Like you might start out here, and then as you see these things that sort of confirm the beliefs that you have, you start to get inundated with more stuff, and then you're suddenly, going down the little route there, and you're super far one way or the other.
You're young, and then you join like a subreddit dedicated to the alt-right.
Isn't this what Eli Pariseau was talking about in his book, The Filter Bubble? That the way the internet works is it segregates information, and people only hear the stuff they agree with, basically. And there's I don't know if this is a difference from the past. Jeff Jarvis says this has always been going on. He says you'd get if you got the newspaper, you'd get the liberal or the conservative newspaper. There would always filter bubbles. You talk where you live, the neighborhood you live in is very much a filter bubble. We aren't really exposed. In fact, Jeff says it's quite the opposite. The internet has given us exposure to a broader range of opinions just through serendipity and accident than ever before.
I think the difference is that there were fewer content sources before, so it would be difficult for you to have your entire media diet consumed by one point of view. Whereas now, because there is so many different content things and so many different channels, if you never wanted to leave a bubble ever, you could.
And why would you ever want to leave your bubble?
Well, to steal wholesale from Georgia Dow, thank you, Georgia. The fact is, this is confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance, and it goes like this is the thing is like it goes back to our primitive brain when we were many years ago hunting in packs and we were small little groups. Like we had to find the people who were like us, and anything that was different was dangerous because it could mean that we don't get to eat that day or that someone was going to come steal our food. And we have this primitive basis of our brain that still exists. And that's why it's scary to have anything that goes against our beliefs. And that's why like there's literal like pain in your brain whenever something challenges your very belief system. And so when you see all these things that agree with you, it's like, oh, this feels good. This is nice. But those things that exist outside, there's like a danger to that. And that is why we get into these bubbles and why we don't, because there's so much discomfort involved with sort of expanding our viewpoint. And so the challenge is to be more evolved humans is to fight past that cognitive dissonance, fight past that confirmation bias, and let in those other things. And so now we have that opportunity to find new viewpoints and find new beliefs. But the fact is, you have to take that, or you can just stay in your little group and continue to sort of go down that hole and be part of that pack.
And then in a way, this takes us back to how we began, which is these Silicon Valley refusenicks who said, we created something far too addictive, and we think you should turn it off. Is that one way to get out of the filter bubble? Is to maybe last night or 2 nights ago, I was up at 3 a.m. on Facebook, and it got me so angry that I deleted Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter from my phone.
Wow.
It's not like I killed my account. I still have it on the desktop and so forth.
Got rid of it. You're saying.
Apple estimates that we pick up and unlock our phone, what was it, 80 times a day? That we spend a lot of time doing this. And I thought and you know what? I haven't really, my battery life really soared because I have no reason to turn my phone on. There's nothing on here I want to see.
I have a theory that, like, we're seeing more and more people start to put implementations to, like, limit the amount of their Facebook or remove their Twitter from their phones. But I also feel like it's a little bit of a privilege. Like, if you are high paid, or if you are lucky and people will still contact you even if you don't check those things regularly, then you could do that. But in, like, smaller parts of the country, rural, like, Facebook is like where you talk to your friends and meet your friends. And if you're not there, you've got, like, nothing. Yeah. You can't. It's like I can't do it
because I don't like people. So I don't mind.
So there could be my guess is, like, there could also be socioeconomic.
Not everybody could do that. Yeah, that's a really good point. So what do we do? So how do we solve this? So these are two problems we've got. We've got the filter bubble. We've got this, kind of unified worldview that we're not hearing from other points of view, and we've also got this addiction problem where these not maliciously, but these companies are designing super addictive products. What's the answer?
If anyone actually knew a good answer, so that person would also be a billionaire. This is the hardest. The thing too here is, like, you can't truly, like, blame Facebook or any other company for, like, being evil, because this is such a complicated question with so many complicated answers. Because
no, I'm stipulating they're not evil. They're just trying to maximize profits.
I don't actually have any clue what the answer is, and that's hard.
I think the answer is it's up to us.
Yeah,
you've got to delete Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
It's self-control there. Whenever the Apple, and I know that Google has had this for a long time, so please don't be angry at me, all of you out there listening. When Apple had come out with the do not disturb while driving thing, I had wrote up a piece about that, and I got a lot of flack because people were like, why can't you just control yourself? You don't need to have a setting that shuts it off.
I turned that do not disturb on right away.
Right? Because people will. You see that notification pop up, and then you're wanting to pay attention to it. Your brain is spinning circles thinking about it. And so we do have it's you got to take it into your own hands, whether that be like go see a therapist and talk about, if this is seriously something that's enough of a concern for you, where you've got some sort of like Facebook addiction or internet addiction, versus just like finding a way to get to that self-control. It's all about beating that primal brain, I think.
Is that passing the buck, Christina, though, to say, it's personal responsibility? You companies keep maximizing profits. It's our job.
It is a little bit. No, I mean, obviously, I think that ultimately it is maybe our job to do this. I think the big solution, and I don't know how you do this, is you have to de-incentivize people from wanting to take advantage of these things, which Google has effectively done in some of their other algorithms, and which Facebook maybe should do too. Is when you figure out what dark patterns are existing and what people are doing to get people to stay addicted in certain ways. You have to look and say, is this ultimately helpful or harmful, long term, beyond just, is this good for our revenue stream? But I do think it is passing the buck a bit to say, well, we should just all have self-control, because these things are, as we were saying at the top of the piece, is the people who are in that Guardian story are talking about, they're using science, they're literally designing things so that people will be more engaged and will do it. I mean, so they'll click more, so that they'll be more addicted. And I don't think you can blame, it'd be like, blaming, drug addicts for taking, drugs because, they're addicted to them. Part of it is personal responsibility, but part of it is that people are on the streets and are offering it to you, So I think it's passing back a little bit, but like Ben said, I don't know the solution. I wish I did.
We do have the war on drugs is a failure.
Yes,
absolutely it is. Because the war on drugs has been a political movement, not about really stopping drugs, but stopping. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, the war on drugs has been a failure, and I think that the opioid crisis in particular has just gotten worse over time, and I think that kind of shows that. I think part of the reason the war on drugs has been a failure is because it's been attacking the victims rather than attacking the source.
But I think we have tried to shut down the cartels, the cocaine cartels. We have tried to cut off the import of drugs in the United States. It's just you can't do it because the demand is there. The profit is so high.
That's the thing. The incentivization.
Incentive is too high.
And other countries, they focus on the other side of the issue. I will try not to make this a drug thing, but on things like
This Week in Drugs.
Well, what would be the Netherlands approach to computer addiction? So their solution to drug addiction is to legalize everything, have treatment centers. Yep. What would you do? What is the equivalent for technology addiction?
Technology treatment centers.
We need treatment centers. You know what? This may be something there is no answer to. This may just be our future. And I feel bad for our kids who are growing up this way. And it does seem, and this is the point of the Guardian article, it does seem to have somewhat perverted our political process. And that's a cause for concern. But maybe that's just a liberal point of view, unhappy with the results of Brexit and the presidential election in the United States. Maybe it hasn't perverted our political process. I'm just too much of a relativist.
I think whenever you think about drugs and where we are sort of with like marijuana and with some harder drugs like opium and things like that, heroin, these drugs hit the scene, and at the time people had trouble, and there's a crisis, yes, but we also know more about the drugs and are continuing to learn more about the drugs and are continuing to get better at treatment for those drugs. And, we're living in this technology boom right now. And so later on down the line, when we better understand this, our kids are going to be so knowledgeable about this, and, they'll go on to be researchers and scientists and psychologists and psychiatrists and things like that. So they'll probably know more about the technology as well and be able to better handle it. Right now, we're sort of just like bathing in it and are learning as we go, whereas they'll sort of have hindsight and things like that. So, it may be our future for a while, but eventually I think we'll get to a place where either we're all killed because, the artificial intelligence have taken over or we've gotten better at it.
It's hard for me not to just get grim and say, oh, we're screwed. But but these are very, very hard things to solve, and no apparent solution presents itself. And yet at the same time, I think it's really important. I'm glad we talked about it because I think it's really important to admit that there is something going on. There is an issue. Tristan Harris, when he wrote in 2013 a memo at Google, he was a product manager. It was called "A Call to Minimize Distraction and Respect Users' Attention." It spread to 5,000 Google employees, including senior executives, who said, "Oh, Tristan, we're going to give you a new job. You're our in-house design ethicist and product philosopher." Looking back, Harris sees he was promoted into a marginal role. He says, that basically was getting rid of me. I got to sit in the corner and think and read and understand, and that's that. So that's one way a company can handle it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Google's being accused in a big lawsuit of racketeering, kind of the same kind of thing Microsoft was accused of in the 90s, the engulf and devour strategy. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Ben Parr is here, the author of Captivology, the science of capturing people's attention. And he's the founder of a new company called Octane AI that helps. You're part of the problem. You're helping make bots. You're part of. We're talking to the enemy. He's sitting right here.
Personalized conversation.
Have you read Hooked? Near's book?
I interviewed Near for Captivology, actually.
Near's a smart guy.
Yes.
He has, I think even Near has misgivings, though, about how his technology is used.
Talks about it a little bit, like how he's like limiting at home in some way.
Yeah. What have we done? It's like Oppenheimer when they invented the atomic bomb. He said, now we are Shiva, now we have been made destruction. Say again? I have become death. There's a happy thought.
The world did not die, though.
Not yet.
It will not die at
Not
this
yet. Not yet. Give it time. It's only 50 years old. 60. What is it? 80 years old, the atomic bomb. It's not that old yet.
I prefer to be an optimist.
Yeah. I hope you're right, too. Also with us, it's great to have Micah Sargent for the first time. But Micah is of course, senior editor at Mobile Nations and hosts a ton of podcasts.
Too many.
Too many podcasts.
There's never such a thing as too many podcasts.
With many of our favorite people in the world, too. You work with Brianna Wu and Christina and lots of other people. This is Georgia Dow, you mentioned?
Yes.
What's the podcast you do with Georgia?
Georgia, Brianna, and Steve Lubitz and I all do a podcast called Disruption. It's it's sort of like what we just talked about, where it gets a little more political. It's tech and the surrounding society, basically. Nice. And it's a question and answer show as well. So we have people call in with their questions, and we help them out with things. It's great to have Georgia on that show.
How do you do that? That's like we used to do that way back when with TalkShoe. We can take calls on the podcast. What technology do you use to take calls?
We actually have a number that calls into Skype, and a call recorder can.
So they leave a question.
Yeah, they leave a. Yeah, so we don't do it live. Although there is I can't even think of the technology now, but it's made by one of the.
I'd like to do it in real time. Wouldn't that be cool?
Dangerous.
Well, that's what I do on the radio show. It's like call on radio, right? It is dangerous. It's very dangerous.
It would be fun. Yeah.
Micah, somebody in the chat room, Robert Bigelow says, Disruption and Rocket are my favorite on Relay FM.
Hey, Christina's on Rocket. That's a fantastic show. I sometimes get to join Christina on that one.
Simone de Rochefort and Brianna Wu. That's a great show. You are so good on that, Christina.
Oh, thank you so much. We love doing it. We love doing it.
And Christina is here. Christina Warren, film girl, now at Microsoft, where she's in charge of... Well, she's a senior cloud dev advocate.
Yes, I work on the Channel 9 team and do some other cool stuff. But yeah, reformed a tech journalist, Christina Warren.
I had a great experience the other day. I was this is our ad for Tracker. I was in we went to a concert, and I went, oh crap, I've lost my keys. And because I was wearing a Scotty vest and I have like 100 pockets, so I put the keys in there. So I looked all around my seat, couldn't find it. And then I went back to the bar and I was searching all around. I thought, oh, wait a minute, I have a tracker attached to my keys, and there's a button on the phone. In fact, I can press it right now. I don't know where my keys are. There's a button on the phone that makes the keys ring. So I pressed, and I was so embarrassed because I heard the sound coming from my coat. And I realized, I put it in some obscure Scotty vest pocket. So you absolutely have to have a tracker if you have a Scotty vest, because there's so many pockets, you will lose it. The Tracker is a great Bluetooth tracking device. They have a couple of form factors. There's the Tracker Bravo, which is anodized aluminum, very lightweight, about the size of a quarter. I have that attached to my keys, but I also have the Tracker Pixel, which is actually phenomenal. I put that on my remote controls because when you press the button on the phone app for the Tracker Pixel, not only does it make a sound, it lights up. It's got LEDs all around it. So when I lose the remote control down the cushions and stuff, I can see it. It like lights up. I can find it. You will never lose anything again with the Tracker. Tracker is Bluetooth. It's not GPS in there, but it pairs to your phone. You can have up to 10 trackers paired to the Tracker app on your phone. You can also, and Tracker's the only one that does this, have one tracker shared to multiple phones. So everybody in your family can have the Tracker app looking for your keys, that kind of thing. It has also the best crowdsourced network out there, the Crowd GPS network. That's really their secret sauce. See, they've sold 5 million trackers over the last couple of years. That means there are people running the Tracker app all over the world. So here's the scenario. You lose your keys. Let's say I left my keys at the bar. Now, it's easy to find it if I left it in the bar because the Tracker app will say, well, the last time I saw them was in the bar. I go there. But wait a minute. Somebody picked them up at the bar and decided to move to Mozambique. I hate it when that happens. Well, fortunately, the next time somebody running the Tracker app walks by my keys, the app says, oh, those are Leo's keys, and sends my app and my phone a ping saying your keys are in Mozambique, buddy. That is awesome. That's the Tracker Crowd GPS network, and it is the secret sauce. Tracker, TRACKR.com. Actually, the hardest thing to find at this point will be the website. You'll never lose anything again, but the website, it's a little hard to find it. THETRACKR. There's no E in Tracker at the end there. THETRACKR.com. Use the promo code TWIP. Load up your basket, okay? Get Tracker Bravos, Tracker Pixels. You can get this waterproof Tracker cover so that you can use a tracker for your pet. Great way to keep track of your pet. All kinds of things. And take 20% off any order, boom, right off the top when you use the offer code TWIT. And you know what? This is when you can tell your friends because they'll all save 20% off at thetracker.com, promo code TWIT. If you're nervous, 30-day money back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. literally, with the tracker, thetracker.com, promo code TWIT. Let's see. I feel like we should do something light after that heavy discussion. Who's buying a Pixel 2? You're all Apple people, aren't you?
Yeah, although if I was going to get an Android phone, that's probably what I would get.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
I'm waiting for that.
Did you get iPhone X or iPhone 8, Christina?
iPhone 10. Come on, Leo.
Yeah, come on, Leo.
Micah, you're waiting for the 10 as well?
Yeah.
You know, there's only about 30 of them for sale in the whole world.
It's going to be like.
I'll be up.
We're all going to be up, dude. 12:01 Pacific time, October 27th. We're all going to be going, refresh. Nobody's going to get one. You're going to.
No, I know. It's going to be like February. I'm going to still be stuck with my 7 Plus. No, but I'm going to try.
And then I'll get the Pixel 2.
Yeah, or the iPhone. I got the 8 because I thought, but the 8, is going to. In fact, people criticize the Pixel 2, the small one, because it had bezels. It's like everybody now. Bezels all of a sudden are like the kiss of death.
Right.
Oh, look at the size of those bezels. That's disgusting. The new thing is going to be bezel free. I have a bezel-less phone.
You've got a Note.
No, better than that. This is the essential phone.
Aha.
It's even got a notch like the iPhone 10.
Right.
Adorable.
You know how many? Adorable is the word. They sold 5,000.
All to you?
Yeah, I feel bad for Andy Rubin. I decided I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to use the essential phone. It's actually a very nice phone.
Sure that it is. You and all 5,000 of your friends.
Me and my close. The only problem with this, same problem with the iPhones 8 and the iPhone 7, and the same problem with the new Pixel XL. Can you guess what problem I'm talking about?
Battery life?
No headphone jack.
Headphone jack.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell?
Done with that. I mean,
what's the story there? It's dead? You agree with it?
It's dead.
I don't agree with it. It's just the #1 company in the world got rid of it a year ago, and everyone, of course, followed suit. So it's gone.
Nilay Patel said famously it was a user-hostile gesture.
He's not wrong, but it's still dead.
He made, I thought, a very good point on The Verge, saying this is just more walled garden because, okay, so obviously no headphone jack, Bluetooth headphones, right? Mm-hmm. But not just any Bluetooth headphones. If you want to get the most out of your iPhone 7, 8, or 10, you get Apple's AirPods with the W1 chip and Siri. If you want to get the most, now Google's doing it. If you want to get the most out of your Pixel 2, you get the, what do they call them? The Google Buds.
Pixel Buds, maybe?
Pixel Buds.
The Babblefish.
It's a terrible name.
Yeah, those are cool. Yeah, the ones that'll, the Babblefish.
Yeah, but you want that Babblefish instant translation? You want a Google Assistant in your ear? You got to use a Pixel. So what Nilay's point is, and I think this is actually well taken, is that the side effect, maybe not even unintentional, side effect of eliminating the headphone jack is now you have to buy the branded headphones to go with it.
Yep.
Big money. Yeah. $150 for AirPods, $160 for the Google Pixel Buds.
But if the headphone jack was there, I mean, there wasn't like an option at that point to get the best experience because of the headphone jack. I don't understand sort of the argument that maybe because it's gone, now there are walled gardens. There sort of always were because Apple may have made their best headphones at the time, even when there was a headphone jack.
At least you could use, as I do, Etymotic headphones with my iPhone.
And
wouldn't
you
be at a
still can.
disadvantage.
You might not,
yes,
it's not
but
pair it the same way.
Bluetooth, first of all, Bluetooth audio quality, I think you would all agree, is worse than wired audio quality.
Yes.
Yes.
Problem number one. Problem number two, even with a vaunted W1 chip, I still get Bluetooth dropping out once in a while, losing calls, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's wireless. The wireless is inherent. And three, now, in order to take advantage of these new phones, you have to buy that company's. You don't have a choice. You have to buy that company's.
If you want the full feature suite.
Right. But you will, right? You want that instant translate. That's cool.
Yeah.
You want to have Siri in your ear, you know, right?
I don't want Siri in my ear. I use these Bose like QC35s, which are like
they
wireless.
Have Google Assistant now.
Yeah.
The new QC35s have Google Assistant.
I did not know that until now, and now I feel
Are you excited?
Maybe I have to get a Pixel too.
I don't think you have to have a Pixel in that case. Somebody's saying there are dongles, but that's not a good. That's not a good.
Dongles
solution.
are horrible.
Dongles are horrible. I have to have a Type-C dongle for the Pixel And for the Essential phone, I have to have a lightning dongle. For the iPhone, I have to keep track of the dongles. Of course, I know most people
I just keep my
don't have
dongle
both.
attached to whatever headphones I'm using.
Now the headphones
honestly.
are lightning headphones. I guess that makes sense.
Bag of dongles. I have a dongle bag.
You have a dongle
I have
bag?
a dongle bag. Here, I have it.
Now, this is what happens when you have dongle bags. You spend time
filled with
bending
nothing.
over,
Oh, my goodness.
just looking for your dongle.
I just have a dongle bag.
That's so sad.
It's like a Mary Poppins bag. You just keep reaching down.
My dongle bag. All right. Well, so you disagree with Neil. You don't think this is a big deal.
No, I mean, I just think that it's past. I think that getting upset about it. I mean, we all got mad about it a year ago, and we got over it. And
yeah, but Google hadn't done it yet. Now Google's done it. Samsung still can make a great phone with all the features of these other phones, the Note 8, with a headphone jack.
You're right, they can.
So
and
why can't
you
Apple
can
and
buy that
Google?
one.
Because they don't want
because
to.
because
don't
because
want
it's been proven over the last year that it doesn't matter. That is as outraged as the Technorati got, it didn't matter. Because most people, let's be honest, most people, not listening to this audience, to be clear, but most people who buy a phone use whatever headphones come with it. So whether it's going to have a lightning cable or a 3.5mm jack, doesn't matter. You're going to use whatever comes with it. Is it more annoying now that you can't charge your phone and listen to your wired headphones at the same time? Sure, that's frustrating. But that aside, I think most people use whatever comes with their phone. They weren't upgrading to better headphones anyway. And,
right.
you know, it's been much ado about nothing. That doesn't mean that it's not user hostile, because I think that it is. But I just, like, I wrote when I think I was even still at Mashable when I wrote something. I was like, I've come to terms with the headphone jack going away. I'm already planning for it. It's terrible. I'm not happy about it, but I'm used to it. I've come to terms with it. I went through my 5 stages of grief. And I feel like a year later, it's like, yeah, it would be surprising to me if the other companies hadn't followed suit, if that makes any sense.
Do you think Samsung will follow suit next year?
I mean, I think it depends on maybe their schematics and whatnot. I mean, and if they see it as a true differentiator, if anybody's actually buying their phones because of it, maybe they would keep it on. But I don't see anybody choose. I don't think anybody is going to choose to buy the Galaxy Note 8 or the Galaxy S8 because it has a headphone jack. I think they're buying those phones for other reasons. They want the camera, they want the battery life, they want that edge-to-edge screen, right? They want the Samsung experience. I don't think anybody's saying, oh, well, you know, I was going to get an iPhone, but it doesn't have a headphone jack, or I was going to get a Pixel, but it doesn't have a headphone jack. I think they're saying, I want the phone for other reasons.
Didn't Samsung have a commercial last year where they're like, we have a headphone jack?
Yeah. They did, but then they also had a phone that blew up. And
it lit your pants on fire.
Yeah. All right, so we just have to live with it.
Are there cool products though? From
am I old fashioned and want a headphone jack? Is that like passe now? Is that like?
No, I don't think it's passe.
That's saying like I want a floppy disk in my computer.
Well, I mean, I think that and this goes back to the argument that we had a year ago. I mean, I think that the difference was that you had, like, when you replace floppy disks with optical media or with flash media, it was superior. Whereas you can, as you were saying, you know, Bluetooth, it's getting better, but you do still have drop-offs. The audio quality is not as good. So we haven't necessarily replaced it with better technology.
I do admit that I bought the Google Pixel Buds.
Oh yeah,
because of the translation thing that they did.
I was going to say that's awesome. And in fairness, like that's I like that. I like that sort of thing. I like that sort of pairing of hardware and software. Even if it annoys me as like an iPhone user that I wouldn't be able to get that same experience with an iPhone, like that could be one of those things where I would say if I were going abroad a lot and I didn't speak the language, that would be a real selling point, not just for Android, but for the Google Pixel phone. Like that's a really cool feature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Japan in the spring, and I hope that I'll have it by then and be able to.
Did they say when it's come? When is it?
Yeah, it's supposed to come. I'm supposed to get it next month, but. But I mean, that would be really, I don't know. Will I be, I might be embarrassed to use it.
I'm going to Germany at the end of the month. I really kind of want to get them by then. So
you won't get it by the end of October.
Someone help me. I want to review them.
Wouldn't that be cool though? Yeah.
I need to review them.
See, I think that especially, well, Japan for me would be, it's impenetrable. It's not like a romance language where I can kind of understand them. I have no idea what somebody's saying in Japanese. So I think it would be really intriguing to, now, the way it works is you launch the translator, and you do that with audio. You tap the thing, and you say, I'd like to speak Japanese or something. And then the person says, you know, wakarimashita, whatever. And then in my ear, I hear, how you doing? And then I say something in English, and comes out of my phone in Japanese. And the demonstration they did, it wasn't simultaneous, but it was almost instantaneous. So as soon as I say something, it comes out in Japanese. As soon as she says something in Japanese, it comes out in English in my ear. You can now have a conversation. That is remarkable. Now, Microsoft demonstrated something very similar with Skype.
Yes.
But that's Skype, and that's not in person.
And it's not exactly. Obviously, this sort of technology has existed. I mean, Google has been doing stuff, for visual stuff for a long time, and I think they've even been doing, apps like Duolingo have existed for a long time too that'll do this sort of conversion. What's really remarkable about this, assuming it works, and I don't have any reason to believe that it won't, is like you said, is kind of that instantaneous. On the fly translation, and that's really impressive. Like I'm really interested in seeing it, and seeing reviews of it, because if it works even half as well as what they're showing, that could be huge for so many circumstances.
The Google Translate app actually already does it.
Right.
It just doesn't have, of course, the headphones and into your ear and all that kind of thing. But I was just testing it. I was out of town, and for some reason I opened the Google Translate app for something, and I forgot that feature existed. So I had tested it. I was trying to learn a Spanish phrase that had been said on the television. So I was speaking in Spanish to it and hearing it sort of speak things back in English. And so to have that instantaneous and right in your ear, I think takes it to the next level. That's really cool.
When I see, that's one of the, every once in a while you see something in this industry where you go, okay, now we're in the future.
It's like the Star Trek, the button, that universal translator.
Yeah. Now we're in the future. That is actually useful and could even change the world, right? Because if you can communicate with people, that can change everything.
Right. I want it.
I want it. See, that's why I'm going to buy Bluetooth headphones and a Pixel 2.
I guess I'm getting the Pixel 2 now.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
All right, here's one too. Google announced a Chromebook. Starts. It's very nice, but remember, most Chromebooks are around $150 to $500. Google's new Pixel book starts at $1,000.
They've gone premium.
Well, they were premium last time. They've always been premium with their Chromebooks, but is this a you felt like the last Chromebook Pixel that Google did, which was also over $1,000, was really just like a demonstration.
Yeah, totally. This one, there's like, it'll be in 1,000 retail stores, and I'm like, really? You
Best Buy's going to sell them. Who's going to buy them?
That's what I can't figure out. Because if you spec it all the way out, and it can be very powerful, right? It's an i7, the 512 gigabyte SSD, 16 gigabytes of RAM. This thing, if you do all the bells and whistles, it's $1,650.
Wow.
And I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, you don't even run a real operating system. And I know. I'm hearing all of you guys in the audience. I get it. You can run chroot on it. You can get like the version of Linux.
No, that's not fair though. It's Chrome OS. It's Chrome. Whatever
exactly.
you can hack it with. It's Chrome OS.
I agree. Exactly. And for me, look, the one thing that could make it sort of compelling, but again, this is for such a small use case. Ken White, the security researcher, was telling me on Twitter that apparently they've made some commits to the Chromium OS where virtual machines will act as containers and can basically be first class citizens. So if you were like, you could have a bunch of Docker containers potentially of your different.
Wait a minute, you can run Docker on Chrome OS?
Well, apparently it's not yet there, like first party, but apparently that looks like that's going to be coming.
So then you could have a Mac OS. That would actually be really cool. I don't have to put up with this Mac operating system, Mac hardware. I could get the Mac operating system on my Pixel.
That's what I'm saying. That potentially makes it interesting, right? Is if you were able to have Docker containers running natively, that could be really cool, but it's not there yet. But even if you assume that that's going to happen and that's coming down the line, I still feel like at that price point, you're at a very, very limited user base who's saying, well, why would I get this machine for this price, nice hardware aside, when I could get, a MacBook Pro where I could, have Docker instances, or I could have a Surface Book, or I could have a Surface Book. Like, why am I not getting these things that are already fully functioned? What
I'll
is
tell
it about
you
this
why.
that makes it better?
Because some people don't need the complexity and the security problems that a general purpose operating system offers.
Okay. So, but again, I guess I'm asking, like, why get the $1,600 version? Why
premium device?
Yeah. Well, all right. So I bought the $1,000 version, which is still expensive. I mean, for $1,000, you can get an Apple. Well, maybe you can't, but you can almost get a MacBook. An Air. Well, that's Or you certainly can get plenty of Windows machines under $1,000.
Definitely.
But maybe I don't need all the complexity of a Windows 10. Maybe I just really surf the web, do email, send postcards to my grandkids. Maybe that's not a bad choice. And By the way, if this, and it looks like it does fully supports the Android store, I could put Photoshop mobile on it. I could put Lightroom mobile on it. I could put Snapseed on it, so I could do all my picture stuff. I mean, there's a lot of Android apps to do almost anything.
Yeah.
By the way, Microsoft has excellent Android apps. I can have Microsoft
Yeah, they
Office.
do. Microsoft has great Android apps, but I mean the bigger concern with me, and I haven't tested the latest version, so my tests are I guess going back to April or so. But last time I was trying to use the Android apps on Chrome OS, and I was using like a Samsung that had been specifically designed to kind of do that. Some of the apps, some of the Adobe ones worked well, and Microsoft, to their credit, like has actually done
their
a good
Android
job
apps are superb. Yeah,
they're great, but they've also done a good job optimizing them to work on the Chromebooks. Having said that, a lot of apps just aren't optimized to work on the Chromebook.
No, that's true. Yep.
And so it's kind of a like you never really know, is this going to work or is this not going to work?
Right. That's true. So, Google needs to promote more people designing their Android apps to work on both Chromebook and they need to surface the good stuff in the store, and maybe they'll do that. I don't know.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, for a long time, there's been rumors that Google will formally kind of, merge Android and Chrome OS. And I think that for this sort of thing to work, especially if you're going to have like $1,000 plus strategy, I think you kind of have to do that, because otherwise everything you're saying about why people buy Chromebooks, even though I personally, it's not for me. I've tried. It's not dissimilar to why I wouldn't be able to use an iPad Air, or not an iPad Air, an iPad Pro as like my main computer. Like I just need different. I have different needs. But there are plenty of people who a Chromebook is perfect for them, and I don't discount that. Most people, I would agree with you. That most people can do just fine with a Chromebook. That said, I just don't understand why you would choose $1,000 Chromebook over a really nice, Samsung or Acer $500 Chromebook. Like it's great build quality, but is it going to be much better that you should be spending double? Like that's what I don't understand.
Right. Like if I were buying for my parents or something like that, would I be paying for $1,600
you get the
computer
Chromebook Plus? Yeah, the Samsung Chromebook Plus.
Exactly. It'd be the same. There wouldn't be much of a difference for them.
And Google, actually, Florence Ion and I, who covered the stream as we do, snarking about the stream during the event. Florence Ion pointed out Google kept calling it a laptop. Is that fair to call it a laptop?
Can you put in your lap?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, a laptop kind of implies that it's
more.
Like a full computer. I don't know. I think this is a really interesting experiment.
Google is trying to say that this is a full computer.
It's a full computer.
Even though it really isn't.
Well, it is.
But it also isn't.
But it is. You can't install apps on it.
Right.
But you can install apps. You can't install Windows apps on it. You can't install Mac apps on it.
Right. Like a Chromebook is the kind of thing where I don't think I could ever, none of us could rely on it.
What makes a full computer? What is it missing that makes that a full computer?
Well, I mean, scanning, video editing is what I would say.
Okay,
I would say video editing.
Video editing, Photoshop, audio editing.
I would say
designing
video editing is
rocket ships, building architectural designs for
advanced programming.
Yeah,
you could do a lot of programming on the internet.
There are a lot of cloud IDEs. I honestly think that, and I've even talked to people who say, I do my full design workshop, and people who are professional designers who use apps like Figma and use, Chromebooks for that. And obviously, Micah and I know a lot of people who are very proficient at using an iPad Pro for all of their workflow tools. I don't want to discount that, although I think it takes more work. But when I look at a Chromebook, the one thing that I think that a lot of people do that you still can't do, you can't replicate, is video editing, and that's something that's you can at least do that on an iPad.
I never thought civilians would ever want a video edit. As a TV person for years, I went into edit booths with editors and slaved over a hot Avid for hours, and I thought, why would anyone want to do this if they didn't have to do it? And yet they do, apparently, because they all want to be YouTube stars. Maybe that's the incentive.
Well, it's the number one thing you ask kids. What
I
want to be
a YouTube star.
You want to be a YouTube
used
star.
to say I want to be Shaq. Now they want to be a YouTube star.
Yeah.
Shaq tried to be a YouTube star, failed miserably. Hey, let's talk about that when we come back. YouTube is back at it, trying to get mainstream talent to do big-time episodic television on YouTube. Is that a smart move, or are they just going to throw away another $100 million like they did last time? We're going to take a break. Great panel here, Micah Sargent. Do you actually, Micah, do everything on an iPad Pro? Is that what Christina said?
No. We know people who
we know
swear
people.
by it.
We know
Yeah,
people.
Federico
We know
Viticci,
The legend.
and a couple other people, like the co-founders of Relay, Mike Hurley, and a few other people.
Mike only uses an iPad?
He says he does. I mean, can we really know for sure?
Wow.
They tried to do everything possible on that, but again, like that word "try,"
it feels like you're putting handcuffs on and saying, "But I can still, give manicures." I mean, it's not. Why do that? Why wear Why wear manacles?
Right.
Who needs?
I'm gonna get internet punched for saying this, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like absolutely.
It's like all right. Our show today brought to you by Fracture. Fracture is a photo decor company that prints your photos onto glass, delivers them to your house perfectly. They have a really sweet packaging method, and they look fantastic. They're ready to hang. You can just hang them right up on the wall, and they look good. I have to say, printing on glass does something to the photo. It really, the colors pop, the contrast pops. So you've got photos. I know you have photos that are sitting on your phone or on your computer or in a digital vault somewhere. You never look at them. Take some of your best pictures and hang them on the wall. And I'm telling you, it brings your house to life. Fracture starts with these little ones. This is a 4x8 by 6x4. So it's like a little postcard print. This is one Lisa made of her son's 8th grade graduation. Here's one that, now this is the way it comes, I should point out, in the box. So it comes mounted on the cardboard, and then the cardboard has the little screw, and on the back of the Fracture, there's a little mounting place. So it's ready to go. That's me. You can make them borderless, or we put borders on because sometimes our shots are 3x2, and so the aspect ratio of these is 4x3 or square. You can import your Instagram directly, your Facebook. This is my son at his high school graduation with my daughter. Don't tell anybody, this is going to be a gift for Christmas to a few of our family members. Grandma's gonna get that. Don't you think she'll love that? And look what it does. They have an advanced editor on the Fracture site, so you can make it monochrome. And look what it does when it's black and white. There's just something that you could fall into it. Don't you think? I mean, I really think they look good. All right, I'm gonna show you how big you can get though. This is the big one. Actually, I gotta show you this. I like showing off my pictures on Fracture because they look really good. This is also my son at his high school graduation. I like this picture because it felt like it was Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. Look at the look he's given me. Like he's mad. He's like, stop taking pictures, Dad. Isn't that great? Black and white. All right. It goes all the way up to 21.6 inches by 28.8 inches. That is big. Look at that. But see, that you could hang that over the mantle, right on the fireplace. Isn't that a great picture? That is a sea lion. This is from the Galapagos. I took this spring, yelling at a flightless cormorant, saying, "That's my spot." and the funny thing is, the cormorant just looked at him like, "Yeah," and never backed down. So eventually the sea lion goes and lies next to him. It was actually, the sequence is funny. I might do a thing of the sequence. Lisa's done that on her blog because she has a similar picture. So look how good your pictures do. Don't let those pictures kind of just die in obscurity. Go to fracture.me. We've got a deal for you. Your first order, you get 15% off if you use the offer code TWIT15. All their Fractures come with a 60-day happiness guarantee. They're printed in the U.S., in Gainesville, Florida, from U.S. source materials in a carbon-neutral factory. They do recycling of the glass. They're just really great. They come on a laser-cut rigid backing, so they're ready to display right out of the box, including the wall anchor. Fracture.me. Use the offer code TWIT15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. If you're listening, you're not seeing those beautiful prints, but go online and check them out. And you know what? Make one. Because it will blow you away. It is really a great way to take your photography and put it on your wall and keep those memories front and center. And a great gift for the holidays. Fracture.me, offer code TWIT15. We thank them for their support of This Week in Tech. One thing Google announced that I thought was really weird, and maybe you guys can explain it, is the Clips camera.
Yeah.
This is, I don't even know if they I don't think even Google takes this seriously. $249 standalone little camera. It's tiny. I mean, it's the size of a postage stamp. And the idea is it stands on its own, or you can clip it, actually in their video, onto a flour sack is how they did it. But the idea is it's got artificial intelligence built in. And you just, when you're like with the family, you're doing something, you point it at and you just forget it for a while. And then it takes the best pictures, like of the most exciting. I don't know how it would know, but somehow artificial intelligence knows, oh, that's a great shot. Oh, that's a great shot. And you get to relate to your family. And then at the end, it's got 16 gigs of storage. You take your phone and you copy them to your phone, pick the ones you want, and upload them. What do you think?
It's a cool concept. It'll be used in some very interesting ways.
Oh, wow. You have a dirty mind.
I meant crime. But now I'm thinking sex.
Oh, my. Oh, yeah, now you are. Oh, that's terrible.
There's a cool idea there of, like, being present and in the moment and having the thing, like, at a big event, taking pictures so that you don't have to think about it. But it totally could be used for all sorts of, like, other things. And it's cool.
It's cool.
It could also be used in creepy ways. But we'll see what happens with it.
I
It seems
didn't
like
even think of that, Ben. You are a...
Oh, I did immediately.
Did you really?
Thought about, yeah. And like everyone I was talking to was like,
what, you put in the
so
bathroom
many
or
creepy
something?
Things.
Oh.
I mean, maybe you're being an optimist here, which I'm not used to because we were just being really negative about things. But
oh, don't tell me now. Tell me later.
Don't give everyone ideas.
Think about like a stalker or something like that. They could put this thing in someone else's house or on their porch. It's right, but I mean, this is just like another more like mainstream possibility here. And like the interesting thing to me was the sort of press rollout that happened after Google announced this. Immediately, all of these big sites, like I watched the Verge video on it, and they were talking immediately about how, yes, this is creepy, but everything happens on device. The AI, its storage is all local, all of this and everything. And so like Google, I think, knew that people would be sort of skeezed out by this. But I mean, it's still, regardless, it's still sort of, I understand where people are concerned.
Well, one of the things, they did think that people would be skeezed out because it would be uploaded to the net. So they were at great pains to say, no, this is local. It only saves it locally.
Right. Which I mean is better than the alternative. I don't know. I mean, it's in a lot of ways it's kind of similar to a GoPro, right? Except it's using your phone rather than, a GoPro usually uses like an SD card. I wonder how many people are actually going to want to use this. Like, I think that's the challenge. More than the skeevy factor is that how many people are going to remember to be like, oh, I'm having this great time. Let me pull out, a little camera and set it up and make sure I'm capturing everything.
Google also said there's a light on it. They intentionally made the lens really obvious. Look lensy. So it's obviously a camera.
Yeah, no, they've learned from Google Glass. I'm just saying, I wonder how many people are going to like want to carry this around in addition to all the other stuff you carry around to capture the moments. But I mean, I don't mind the concept. I mean, obviously, we're all kind of skeeved out by, as Micah was saying.
I'm not. I didn't even think of that. You guys are
you have the pure mind.
Well, no, I wasn't even thinking about in what context you're talking about. I'm just saying, like, people potentially, like capturing you when you're not sure whatnot. I don't know. Although it is what it is. If people want to put spy cameras in your house, they can and will. Drop cams, Nest cams do those sorts of things now, and they stream it to the cloud.
Now I'm horrified.
But
I swear to God, I didn't even think of that. I just thought, oh, that's cool. Because my kids hated it when I took pictures of them. They would always go like this. And so I just like the idea I could, put something there that would do that for me.
What I kind of like about it is it's in some ways it's kind of similar to the Snapchat spectacles, which idiots like me waited in line for and now everyone's forgotten about. But it's kind of the same idea where that, again, they went through great pains to like make sure that when it's recording and whatnot. But the idea would be you could be present in the situation and that's a similar thing where it would capture it and then transfer it to your phone and then you would choose if you wanted to upload it or not. But this is obviously a separate device, has better quality. And like Ben was saying, I do kind of like the idea of being at a party or out someplace and not having to be buried in your phone the whole time. I mean, I think this is what they're trying to get at. I don't know if this is the right approach, but I think what they're aiming for, and this is, I think, actually pretty notable, especially given what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, is to say rather than being stuck in our phones all the time and constantly on our screens, you could be in the moment and still go back later and say, these are the most important parts. And
I thought that was cool.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's laudable.
Now I'm thinking I'm probably on some list for ordering one. I don't know. Maybe I won't buy. Maybe I won't buy it. It is $250. It's very expensive.
People want to like pull it out to like do that. Is it gonna be a selfie like this?
No, like I would put it here.
Yeah, but for most parties, like you wouldn't get the good angles. Like what I'm like thinking is like cameras work is all about the angles and is all about the
you're right.
lighting and the shot, and you don't control any of that.
It's a strange product. It's a 130-degree field of view, so it's very wide. I don't know. It is a strange product.
But it would work.
Reminds me of those apps where you push the button and you don't know what the photo looks like, and it like pretends to develop the photo for you. You see it like the next day. Yeah,
I don't like that either. I like to know what I got and take it again if I didn't get anything good. By the way, Christina, don't feel bad. Evan Siegel says they sold 150,000 Snapchat spectacles.
Is that good? I don't think that's good given all the hype.
Really?
Given the fact that I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's good. I don't know.
What's 150,000 times $100? It's not bad.
I mean, I guess.
Does it make a dent for Snapchat as a company?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was a promotional thing.
Right?
What is Google's purpose in making this thing? The clips.
I mean, I think that they're trying to try to see. I think when I looked at a product like this, you know what I kind of thought. I kind of got this from the Google Home devices too. Is I feel a certain amount of Amazon envy from Google with some of this stuff, where Amazon has done I think better than any other company right now, and a lot of this kind of space is really kind of taken over the home space because of the success of the Echo products and some of their other things. And so I look at the new Google Home Minis and the redesigned Google Home and all that stuff, and I look at even these things, and I think that it's kind of like them trying to succeed the way that Amazon has in those kind of new spaces like the home.
Well, let's take a break and then we'll talk about that, because we are going to have a war in the home. There's going to be stuff galore listening to you, taking pictures of you, invading your privacy. And Google's getting in on the action just as much as Amazon is. And then now I guess Microsoft is. There's going to be a Cortana appliance from Harman Kardon. Apple, apparently, there's going to be a number of Siri appliances. Your home's going to be all singing, all talking soon. It's fun to have you all. Christina Warren's here. New job, but at first I thought, I can't have her on now because she works at Microsoft. Then I thought, no, of course I can. Christina's not going to, she's not going to shut up or she's going to be Christina. And I was right. Always great to have you. You're one of my favorite people on the show. Ben Parr, one of my favorite people, period, author of Captivology, and my new best friend, Micah Sargent. It's great to have you, too, senior editor at Mobile Nations. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you're in the job hunt, whether you're looking for a job or looking for an employee, you ought to know about ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is for somebody who's doing the hiring. And I don't know if that's you in your company, or maybe you're the HR person, maybe it's just a small company and it's just you. You really need to know about ZipRecruiter, because it is the way, it's a smart tool using the power of the internet to reach out to more people so you are more likely to find that perfect employee. You post on ZipRecruiter. Instantly, it's posted on over 100 of the web's leading job boards. Just one click at ZipRecruiter, plus Twitter, plus Facebook, plus all the social networks, right away. So you're instantly, within 24 hours, you're going to start getting applicants rolling in. They use their smart matching technology, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job, too. So that's interesting. They have millions of resumes, lots of people looking for work at ZipRecruiter.com. They will instantly match them up. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. It goes out and it finds them. You even get a head start on the interview process. They make it very easy because, of course, if you're going to reach out to all these job boards, you know you're going to get a lot of applicants, but they don't come into your email inbox. They don't come to your voicemail. They go into the ZipRecruiter interface, where you can add screening questions to help find the most qualified candidates. They format the resumes so it's easy to read. They're all the same. It couldn't be easier. Then you just go through the candidates that pass your screening questions. You rank them and you hire the right one fast. 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate through the site in 1 day. 1 day. Couldn't be easier. If you're hiring, ZipRecruiter.com the smartest way to hire. Find out why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses. Look at all these businesses of all different sizes, more than 1 million businesses. We've used it, little business like us, but so has Netflix, so has Target, so has Volkswagen and AT&T. I mean, this is a really powerful platform. And right now, you could post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. And by the way, if you're looking to hire technical people, it's a great place for any skill set, anywhere in the nation. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. Did you know that Siri is 6 years old, turned 6 years old on October 4th?
Yeah.
Toddler.
Wow.
A little over a toddler.
It seems like it hasn't really matured in any way.
I remember the original Siri, the 2010 Siri, which was an app before Apple bought it.
Right. In fact, those guys started, was it Viv.ai, which then got purchased by Samsung.
Bought. Yeah, sure did.
So they're still around. It was on the iPhone 4S. So this was Apple's version of it on the iPhone 4S. Siri was cute at first because she, had funny responses. But okay, you're all Apple phone users. Do you find Siri useful? I find myself swearing at Siri more than I do thanking her.
No, I use it to set alarms. That's about it.
Good for setting alarms, reminders, calendar appointments. Yeah.
Limited use cases. Like there will be sometimes I will ask it a very basic question, like the weather. It'll work. Yeah,
it can do the weather. But if you ask it anything more than that, it'll almost always say, I found something on the web for this.
Right.
Which is never anything you want.
My favorite thing is when you get a new app and it's leaving you a bunch of stupid notifications, and so you're getting annoyed by it. You can ask Siri to open up the notification settings for that app, so you don't have to tap all the way through to get to that page.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's actually huge.
See, this is part of the problem with all these voice assistants. They can do things, but there's no way to figure out what they can do. That's a great one, Micah. That's really useful. So what do you say?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
You say open blah, blah, blah's settings, like open
settings for the camera app. I have to unlock the iPhone first. Let's see what I found on the web for that. Oh, no, it did. It worked. Yay, Siri. You're the best. I'm sorry I said anything bad about you.
It should go directly to the page. So I like to use anytime those, especially like food delivery apps, they love to say, "Oh, we've got 20% off for the next hour."
Me crazy.
Like, open settings immediately. Yes. It goes right to that page and shut off the notifications.
You like uninstalled some apps from your phone. My thing has been turning off notifications for every single thing except Slack.
But Apple does not make that easy because you have to go app. First of all, it's always driven me crazy that all the settings in the iPhone, they're not in the app. Well, some of them are.
Some of them are, but that's bad.
It's confusing. Yeah. Some of them are, and then most of them are there. I guess Apple wants them to be in this notifications.
They would want them to be in the settings thing. Yeah, they want them to be in the settings app, not the app itself. But you're right. Some apps.
There needs to be a switch though that says turn off. There's do not disturb, but there needs to be a switch that says I don't want notifications from anybody. Let me reverse it. I'll tell you if I want a notification from you. But the default is everybody notifies you for everything all the time.
Yep.
Don't like it. And I have hundreds of apps. I'm not going to go through these one by one.
Part of that original information overload thing we talked about at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
So all those notifications, naturally, that's new information. Every single time one pops up, you're like, I have to check. You're trained. You have to check it. You have to check it.
The phrase is continuous partial attention. That's the phrase I bet you Georgia Dow uses. That sounds like something Georgia Dow would have thought.
It does. Yeah. Continuous part. So, I mean, you're constantly spinning little parts, cognitive load devoted to
You're never paying attention to anything 100%. It's all partial attention to everything.
I feel like in this assistant war, so there's like that. And then in this assistant war, like I find, for example, I have a Google Home and I have an Alexa, and I find the Google Home can answer more questions, has better context.
But
the Alexa has a better ecosystem.
Call it Echo so we don't trigger people's.
Yeah. Oh. The Echo has a better ecosystem. More skills have been built to top of it.
I use Echo all the time, and I have a Google Home, and I rarely use it.
But it recognizes more things if you like.
Mostly because I use the Echo for music and for timers.
Yeah, and set my Echo is the one that's set for all the lights in my house.
Right.
Yeah, same.
Well, that's why I thought what Google did this week was interesting, because they made a strong play for the home. And I have actually talked to developers who say it's hard to develop for Apple's home. Everybody's very interested, though, if you ask me, everybody I've talked to, in Amazon. That's where you want to be. Google clearly says, no, we want to be the assistant that you control your home with. But with the problem, this is that ecosystem thing again. Consumers are gonna you don't want all of them. You're going to pick one and invest in one, and then and the investment at some point is going to get high enough that you're just done. You can't switch.
Totally. I mean, and I think that the fact that Amazon and Microsoft are working together so that Cortana and the Echo will work together is kind of shows that even within those companies, they're kind of picking winners, so to speak. And you're right, Google is definitely making a big play for the home, and I wouldn't count them out in the slightest. And definitely, I think that they are going to make it easier for people to write things than the HomeKit stuff is, because Apple's very specific about who can have HomeKit access. And I understand that from a privacy perspective and a user data perspective, that's all very good. But what it means is that it's a lot more difficult for cool things to happen. And so also, frankly, until the HomePod, which is very expensive, comes out, there won't be a single appliance that's not your phone that will be able to kind of do a lot of these things, or your Apple TV to a much lesser degree. But I think that, Amazon has, I don't think they expected the Echo, the original Echo, to be so successful. But I think with the Echo Dot and kind of this whole ecosystem and by having a really good SDK and an open API, from the beginning for the skills and whatnot, even if most of the stuff isn't that useful, they really kind of have won mind share for a lot of people. And so everything works with the Echo, everything works with Amazon, whereas, it's going to be a much harder thing for any of the other companies to kind of get even the bigger players on board, not to mention the smaller people. But if you are a consumer, if I'm trying to say what home assistant should I buy, if you're really into the Google ecosystem, a Google Home could be great. And like Ben said, it can be better at answering certain questions, right? But if you're saying, I have some things from this company, some things from this company, I really just want to control music, maybe my lights, maybe do a couple of other things. Basically, every light provider and every smart home provider at this point is hooking into the Amazon ecosystem if they can. So it's kind of hard to recommend against them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no. Right now, Amazon's the lead horse. The real question is if Google can catch up. But the other question is, given that Siri's the first of these, what did Apple do wrong? Why isn't Apple doing better?
A lot of people argue that it's the fact that it's because of Apple's tie to privacy and things like that, and so they don't have necessarily as much of the online processing that some of these other companies have, and the way that it works, to collect information and process that and then roll it out. But I also think it's the fact that up to this point, Apple is just now finally coming out with this sort of disembodied device that is just meant to interface with Siri. Whereas we've had the Echo and we've had the Google Home for quite some time, and these devices have the Google Assistant and Alexa respectively. And so we've sort of tied our brains at least to this assistant that lives in a tube, or this weird circular thingy that the Google Home speaker is.
Oh, wait a minute. You got one with a copper bottom.
Yeah, well, it's orange, really cool orange color. Back
now
then.
I don't like it as much. Did it come in orange, or did you get one of those special inserts that they're making now?
I bought one because I didn't like it. Was gray that it came with.
Yeah, it's just gray fabric.
Have a different color.
Google's all over the fabric. I don't understand why. Everything's fabric colored.
Yeah, no, they really like that. I mean, and some people really like it. I think it does make it look a little bit less sterile. It makes it look more like a piece of furniture.
Anyway, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and even if you look at this stuff that Amazon announced last week, they're kind of going more in that direction too, of trying to make it.
And look at Apple's HomePod. That's a fabric thing, right?
Exactly.
Fabric colored tater tot.
It was interesting. Google clearly is responding to Apple's HomePod. They have now the Google Home Mini, which looks like a nice pink donut with sprinkles. They have a Google Home. They don't call it this, but the Google Home MIDI, the original Google Home. And they have a Google Home Maxi for those heavy flow months. No, for the I'm sorry.
We got turkeyness
I
in
tried
your
to
mind.
avoid that, and I couldn't. This is a little bit. It's not as big as it might appear. They're very careful to only show it in abstract, but it's about as big as a shoebox.
Looks like a Sonos.
It looks a lot like a Sonos.
Well, I mean, which this week Sonos finally announced the official Amazon,
and it works.
Right.
I'm happy to say I installed it. I can now. I put a dot. You have to connect because I don't get the Sonos one. I don't have yet. Their new speaker that will do this. But if you have an Echo Dot, you can plug it into the back of the Sonos. I don't know how they're doing it. Some sort of magic. There's an Echo skill that you have to turn on, and now I can shout anywhere in my house.
So
I have to shout. What do I shout? It's a complicated. It's. If I had to parse this in English class, I'd fail. Echo, play Kenny Rogers on master bathroom Sonos, and that.
Oh no!
But then,
but the next Play One will actually just have the Echo stuff built in, so presumably you'll be able.
It wasn't
to
hard to set it up, and it works. What's interesting is not all the Amazon Echo features will work, but I can hear the music that I want, all the Sonos music. I am actually. They should have done this months ago because by being so late to the market,
they were supposed to.
Yeah.
They were supposed to. Sonos had originally announced this integration in I want to say it was August of last year because I was at the event in New York, and they were in beta testing. It's supposed to be out early 2017. So now more than a year after it was announced, it's finally rolled out. But I thought the bigger news, obviously, the integration is great for the existing Sonos users who I think there's probably, if you were to look at it, probably a huge overlap between people who have a Sonos and people who have at least one Echo product. But I think having the new Play One that has it built in is really compelling, and and especially at its price point, because at that point I'm saying, okay, well, why would I buy a Google Home Max, or why would I buy?
It's $199, right?
A home, or why would I buy a HomePod if I can get this Sonos thing, which will provide great sound and work with my existing system of
I think my sense is that you get one and it controls all your Sonos speakers. You don't have to.
Yes.
So they're all now in Echo enabled, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah, and later on, I think it in 2018, they'll bring the Google Assistant and Siri through an iOS device, but the Google Assistant full-heartedly into the Sonos one as well. So I think that's really cool that you're basically getting to choose between the three, with the Apple integration not as great as the other two, but to be able to choose between Alexa and the Google Assistant, I think is really nice.
And I just want to set the record straight. I don't actually listen to Kenny Rogers in the shower.
You should just.
That was an example.
Just embrace it.
I listen to Led Zeppelin in the shower.
Nice.
Yeah. I sing along too. I'm sorry.
They made a real mistake, I think, with the Google Home Mini by not including a headphone jack.
Oh, I thought you were going to say sprinkles.
No, I think you're right there. I think you're right there, Micah. I think you're dead on.
Headphone jack. What would that
that's
be
what
for?
That's what makes the Echo Dot so great. Is that
good.
You can get a Dot and then connect it to a fantastic speaker system that you already have in your home.
Oh, yeah, not
for
headphones, but for a
line
out jack for
auxiliary. Yeah.
No, I agree. That's the best thing about the Dot. In fact, my Dots, all the Dots I have in the house are connected to bigger speakers, nicer speaker systems. And in fact, that's one of the things that allows Sonos to use a Dot as its controller, because you take the line out of the Dot and put it into the line in on the Sonos. So that's interesting.
I don't get why they didn't include it.
Why didn't they do that? Maybe it was same reason they don't put a headphone jack on the Pixel. It's just
must be. You gotta have a dongle for that now.
Yeah, it takes too much space. It's a Bluetooth speaker though, right? You can you can Bluetooth
you can link it through Bluetooth. I mean, which you can do with the Dot as well. But I think you're right. I mean, I do the same thing that you guys do. Like I use my Dots. I have them connected to better to better speakers. That's what I think makes it such a good value at $50.
So what are consumers? Now we do this. You did this earlier with the Pixel Book. We're one group. But obviously very different from the normal consumer. Does anybody know what normal people think?
My in-laws,
any normal people out there?
without our prompting for
what
Christmas.
What do the simple folk do?
Look, I will just say this: without prompting, my in-laws this year were really on the Echo bandwagon, and got them for like a ton of people, and including my husband. Like it was actually really interesting, and they're not. Part of they're not really tech savvy. They usually ask me for advice on things, and they, bought Echo Dots for a lot of people as Christmas gifts.
Did they buy them without asking you?
Yes.
Wow. So that means they were confident. They knew what they would do. They knew they would be well received. So they in other words, they understand Amazon's Echo.
Maybe not all the intricacies, but knew they'd heard enough about it, saw,
I agree.
This seems
Amazon's
cool.
the winner in this.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at, according to Amazon anyway, they claimed that during the last holiday season, and also I think during Prime Day, that they'd sold the best-selling item was the Echo Dot. So they're clearly selling tons of these things. So, I mean, I think that regular people, that's probably, again, I think this goes in line with what developers are doing. And one of the reasons why the mind share tends to be there is that, they're the ones that everyone has.
Agreed. That's been my experience as well. I remember going over to a friend's house who's not a techie in the slightest, and he turned on the lights with a command to, the Echo device, and I was like, "You have an Echo?" I just wasn't expecting that. And I mean, that was the one that he bought. He found out how to set it up, got it all figured out, and enjoyed it. And that's been the experience that I've seen is people going to that one. I think part of the thing too is though it's like, a lot of people do shop on Amazon, and when that is right there and you're able to purchase it, and you see the commercials, but then you know where to go. It's interesting how many people don't necessarily know, like, I need to go to what Google site do I go to? How do I find how to buy a Google Home, or how do I find where to buy a HomePod? It's not as simple as we think it is.
You can even buy Echoes at Whole Foods now.
Yeah, I was gonna prediction.
That's true.
10 to 15 years from now, we'll be getting our checkout with ALEXA at our Whole Foods.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Wow. You can order. I mean, I could order groceries through the Echo. Mm-hmm. I was at our local Whole Foods the other day. They now have Amazon lockers there. They have Amazon deals. They cut the price on their ribeye steaks, Amazon special. So Amazon's really changing Whole Foods. It's very interesting. And I bet you it will end up being a place you can buy Amazon hardware, which is bizarre.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Why would you not? I mean, they have. I mean, kind of the same way that the Apple Store kind of exists as a way to push things, and Barnes and Noble when they were trying with the Kindle and things like that, and Microsoft has their stores. I mean, Amazon. It's really interesting. They have some of the bookstores in various cities, but now by buying this grocery chain, they've actually now have a way to push some of their official items, even if you wouldn't normally think that you would buy a gadget in a grocery store. But I mean, that's what the super Walmarts have taught us, is that clothing and clothes and food and electronics can all sit side by side, and no one really bats an eye.
So, it's first of all, this is a very surprising category. They came out of nowhere. I mean, maybe with Siri, people thought, "Oh, this is that," but Amazon really came out of nowhere and just owns this. Mm-hmm. Can they hold this lead, or and who's their challenger? It feels like Google's the only one that can offer them a serious challenge, not Microsoft. I don't think Siri's going to offer a serious challenge. Is this Amazon's to lose?
At the moment, for sure.
Yeah.
And like to their credit, they had like 5,000 people working on the Amazon on the Echo division. They massively increased the number. They're investing hard in it, as they should. But Bezos is not one to lose a lead.
Jeff is an amazing fella. I feel like I would never want to bet against Jeff Bezos.
Never want to compete against Bezos.
Yeah. No kidding.
Have you seen those charts? They're always going up.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. But Google, if anybody's going to do it, it'd be Google. Google's got the resources. Where Google has a huge advantage, and where they could, I think right now, it's a one-horse race. Amazon's way ahead. Mm-hmm. But if I were looking at Google, I'd say that kid could do it, because they've got a huge advantage in artificial intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. No one has as much data. No one's been doing it as long. No one has as much machine learning. Google could become, Scarlett Johansson in your ear. But whereas I don't think Amazon's close to anything like that. They don't have the data. They don't have the software.
Well, no, I mean, I think you're right. Although I do think, again, and I don't know all the details other than what's been publicly announced, but I mean, I think that's where the Cortana Amazon relationship becomes sort of interesting, because obviously, and Microsoft has been doing a ton of stuff with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that actually does become interesting if you start to maybe think about how that partnership could help.
So you think this is Bezos saying, well, Microsoft's going to give us the stuff we're missing in terms of AI.
And I think the reverse is true, is that Microsoft is saying, even though we're going to have devices in the home, maybe through other people, and even though, Windows 10, which has, hundreds of millions of installs, has Cortana built into it and all that sort of thing, we don't have Echo-like product. So this will help get us into more places in a different situation. And Amazon saying, and we can use some of Microsoft's experience with AI and machine learning to help our stuff improve. And then together they might actually be able to be a challenge to what the her sort of thing that Google is potentially doing.
Here's an interesting question. But Microsoft with Cortana, Apple with Siri, even Google with their Chromebooks have a desktop assistant. There's actually on the new Pixel books, there's a button for Google Assistant.
Yeah.
Of course, Cortana, you just say, hey, Cortana, it pops up. Siri, same thing. I never use it. I actually don't even really use it on the phone that much. There's something magical, at least for me, about talking to my house is what I really want to do. Is that your experience as well?
That's my experience. What
Absolutely.
I will say, and I weirdly, I never use Siri on my Mac ever. I just in the year that I've done it, I've almost never used it. Primarily because it's not that good. I have found myself, because I've been using a Surface Book at work for the last few months, and before that I hadn't really used Cortana. I will say, although I don't speak to it, I don't talk to Cortana, I do find myself typing things into the Cortana bar because I find that to be very good, to find a certain file or to get information about the weather or something else. I find
that's
that
not
to
a
be
speech assistant though. That's just
I agree,
Spotlight.
Well, right, but it's still asking a specific question in a way that I couldn't ask Spotlight.
Okay.
It's still giving me more updated information. But I'm with you. For whatever reason, I don't talk to my computer, but I talk to my house, and
it just feels natural.
It does feel different, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, the one, and it's weird because here's the one case I do use Siri. I use Siri with my Apple TV.
Me too. Yes.
I use Siri with my Apple TV all the time, and I think
use Google Assistant with my Android TV, with my Android Shield.
Yeah, and I use.
It's natural to search for. I want Alec Baldwin movies. It's natural to do that. Yeah. But that's the one time you do it, and it's because you can't really type on a TV.
You can't type it. It's terrible. But B, also, it works the way you expect it to work. I think that's the really important thing. And I think this is still, we were talking about how it's the 6th-year anniversary of Siri. I think part of the problem with Siri is that when it first came out, it was good at certain things and it wasn't good at others, and people kind of gave up on it. And it has improved a lot over the years, but a lot of people, myself included, just don't want to try because I just remember what it was like when it couldn't, even now, like you were saying, you ask a question, it'll send you to the web result for results, or it'll say, I don't understand that. And you just kind of got used to, at least in my mind, I was like, well, Siri is not going to be able to give me an answer. So I'm just not even going to think to ask it things. Whereas with the number of years that had passed by the time that, Siri launched on the iPhone 4S and the first Echo came out, that was what, like, I guess 3 years. And at that point, because it was 2015 that so I guess it was 4 years. It was 3 years. It was the end of 2011 and then the beginning of 2015. In that time, I think that things had improved to the point where we didn't have a lot of high expectations for the original Echo, and then when it started to be able to do things and control your lights, play music, give the weather, set a timer, do that sort of stuff, you become more comfortable with talking to it, in addition to it just being more convenient to talk to your house versus, having to hold down originally on a button on your phone, and that sort of thing.
A data point there too, my partner is like sort of my litmus test for the norms, as they call it, people who are not as into technology as we are, people who are not as steeped in technology. And it's interesting because early on, I think, gave Siri way more chances than I ever did. Yeah, we all got used to the fact that it failed a lot, and it may have gotten better, but I just don't want to take the time to watch it fail if it will. But he uses Alexa all the time. We'll ask it questions. We'll ask it about the traffic. We'll ask it no problem at all. And even when it will fail occasionally, then, he's forgiving of it and will try again or say it a different way. So I think, Amazon really has gotten out ahead here and has sort of these other companies have a lot of work to do, I think.
It's also just even like having to pull out the phone and hold down the button to do that.
That's too much trouble. Although you can say, hey.
Yeah, but maybe the other thing too is just like the perfection in voice recognition really does matter. And I feel like it just feels like, maybe it isn't anymore, but it used to feel like just Siri would miss at least 2 different words. Alexa will miss less words.
Right.
Google Home even less. And so I tend to talk to those 2.
Yeah. My wife and I, like you, Micah, my wife and I have She uses it a lot. We have kind of a standing joke. I just say, "Oh, you continue to have faith, don't you? You really you believe, don't you?
You believe.
Yeah.
You believe." And it never works out. It's very although when it does, it's kind of magical, isn't it? Like when you ask a
You're
question.
like, oh, thanks. It's like, oh, good.
Wow.
What?
Wow. She actually understood me and said something instead of a snarky joke.
Yeah, in fact, I'll be like the jaded person. He'll say something, and I'm like, "That's not going to work." You realize that's not going to, and then it works, and I'm like, "What?"
I feel like well, this is to me, it's the surprise category that really is exciting. I mean, I think it's one of the most exciting things that's happening in tech. It's not smartphones, it's not cameras, it's not self-driving cars. It's voice assistants. It's really kind of taken off. And it's interesting that the battle is shaping now. Apple's HomePod comes out in December. Google's Maxi comes out in December. And I think the Harman Kardon Cortana device comes out in December. So it's going to be a variant. And then Amazon has like 18 form factors that nobody even understands. What is this? Why do you have that? What is that?
And Amazon's just like, which one goes best?
Pick one.
Just
Pick
take one. Fine.
The real test will be I ordered the clock one. What is that called?
Yes, me too. The dot.
Yeah.
No,
and
that's
it's
not
got
it.
a camera on it. And the real test is if my wife will let me put it on my bedside table or not.
Amazon.
It's arriving.
It's coming soon.
It's arriving on my birthday, and I can't wait to set it on my table. It's the December 19th.
Will you put it in your bedroom, Micah?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's got a camera on it. I know, but it's
yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I see. For me, I don't care if it catches me walking around in my underwear, but I think maybe it's different for women that they worry. I don't know. I feel like, well, who's going to see that? Nobody's going to see that. On the other hand, we know it could leak out, right? Because everybody's been breached, and
oof.
Yahoo now says, "Oh, sorry, it wasn't 1 billion. It was 3 billion." Turns out everybody, and if you had a Yahoo account,
which makes sense because they'd reset everyone's password.
Right. We just thought they were just being proactive. It turns out,
and now
they knew something. Yeah.
I wonder how the board members at Verizon feel when they're like,
aren't they going to be pissed? Yeah.
Because they paid like a quarter less. Like they shaved off, what was it like $1 billion off of the sales price because of the 1 billion disclosure. And now that they realize actually it was 3 times as big.
It was every person.
Lawsuit?
Find them like,
lawsuit.
well, I mean, what are they going to do?
Well, who do they sue?
Are they gonna sue? Exactly. Exactly. It's like, I mean, you know what I mean?
Who's
like,
left?
They made the deal. They clearly didn't do their due diligence enough. I mean, like, yeah, exactly. Like, who are they going to go after?
Or, well, you can make the case that Yahoo covered it up.
I mean, I guess if you can prove that, but
hard to prove.
But that. What
happened? Is Marissa Meyer still there?
No.
She left.
She left.
She took her payout and
it's all Tim Armstrong's show.
And she's
well, she was going to stay not with the oath part, but with the. What did they have?
Silly the Alibaba holding thing.
Yeah, the Alibaba holding company.
I don't think she's with that.
She didn't stay there either.
I don't think so.
No, I think
she's just on the beach enjoying life with her $100 million payout. And
can you blame her?
No. It's funny though because usually
with the kids.
That's what I would do. But usually people like her immediately go, "Oh well, my next big challenge is going to be I'm going to figure out how to." And
I'm sure she will have. I'm sure she will have her own VC fund very soon. Just as soon as. She's had some time to decompress.
Yeah, she'll do
or whatever. I mean, I'm guessing
join you. She'll start doing venture capital.
I'll invest with Marissa.
Sure.
We did one company together.
Did you?
A company called Ubeam, wireless electricity over distance, utilizing.
How's that
ultrasound.
working out?
That is working out super awesome, and I know things that I cannot talk about.
It's working?
It is working.
Because remember the rumor was going to be that Apple was going to be able to charge. You just go into the room and it would charge. And I said at the time, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, they're not.
But Ubeam was the technology everybody was talking about.
Ubeam showed off the technology at a
charging
conference
at distance
earlier this year. It showed that it worked, but I invested because I literally tried it.
But doesn't it fry you? I mean,
no. I mean, ultrasound does not fry, baby.
Oh, it's using sound. That's right.
Yes.
It's not using electricity or RF. It's using sound.
Interesting.
Well,
I want it so bad.
I know cool things. There's so many cool things.
It might scramble your.
It will not.
No.
It will not.
Okay. Okay.
My cell walls, they're scrambling.
They're scrambling. How far? How far will it go?
I can't talk about that.
Come on. Nobody's here. It's just us. Just us.
Just the four of us.
Just the four of us.
Just hold out your hands, Leo, and then start going in, and then he'll nod his head.
Is it this far? Is it this far? Tug your ear. Is it this far?
Yeah, exactly. Blink once.
No, I won't put Ben on this spot. That's interesting, though. You're an investor in Ubeam.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm going to stay friends with you.
We're all friends here today, right?
We're all friends. Google's accused of racketeering, and a well-known architect, Eli Attia, spent 50 years developing what he calls a game-changing new technology for building construction. In 2010, Google said, hey, Eli, that's cool. We'd like to work with you to commercialize it as software. Attia moved to Palo Alto to focus on it, codenamed Project Genie. It was part of Google X. In fact, it was one of the very first Google X moonshots. But then, according to the lawsuit, Google, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin plotted to squeeze Attia out of the project, pretended to kill it, but then spun off Project Genie into a new company which Attia had no stake in. Attia is accusing Google of racketeering, saying it's not the first time, it's not the only time. They do this all the time. It's cheaper to steal than develop your own technology. This is what Microsoft was accused of, remember, in the 90s. They would do an NDA with a company. They would learn all about it, saying, we're just inquiring you. And then they would say, yeah, no, we decided not to, and build exactly the same thing. A judge in Santa Clara County Superior Court approved the addition of the racketeering claims to the lawsuit. The suit was filed a few years ago, but now this new racketeering charge has been added. Apparently, according to some, Google likes to do this sort of thing. They renamed Project Genie the Flux Factory. Now it's called Flux. It's headquartered in San Francisco. It sells building design software and markets itself as the first company launched by Google X. Google says, hey, we paid him for his technology. We own it now. That's that. We'll watch that case with interest.
While we don't know much about what was right or wrong in that case, there is definitely a culture of bigger companies doing NDAs, finding out as much as they can, and building their own stuff internally more than maybe even a few years ago.
It's always the fear of an inventor that this will happen. That they'll bring it to a big company and they'll say, oh, that's very interesting, but no, we're not really interested, and then build it. So don't know the merits of the case, but interesting. I'm now looking at an old rundown, I think, because it says, this is an old story. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Actually, let's take a break, and then I'm going to ask you all why it is the tech community is so anxious to defend Eugene Kaspersky. Okay? Okay, when we come back. Before we get on with the show, I realized that there were a lot of things that happened this week on Twit that you might have missed, but we decided we can make up for that by editing a little kind of highlight reel. Watch.
Previously on Twit.
And if you really were using us,
something horrible has happened to Mary Jo.
The menace. Look at her.
I was just watching him. I'm like, no.
Tech News Weekly.
You wrote earlier that Snapchat looked on their platform and didn't have any problems. So are we to believe that we're living in a world where like the only news we can trust is from Snapchat?
The Russian intelligence agencies can't take out a tab on Snapchat Discover without, setting up a deal with Snapchat. So that by itself makes it very difficult for anyone to really game the system.
iOS Today.
We wanted to talk a little bit about terms of service, so we have
my favorite lawyer,
the princess of terms of service, Denise Howell.
What should people do when they're confronted with a 56-page legal document that they're asked to agree to before they can use their new iPhone?
You can make this assumption that everything in there is in there because it benefits the company and covers the company's rear end in some way.
I did assume that.
Twit. Yeah. We read the tech news, so you don't have to.
I'm still testing whether shaking the phone makes a web page load faster.
It's how you shake it. Yeah, you got to do it like a Polaroid.
Like a Polaroid.
I've been doing it all wrong. I've been shaking it like a hammer.
Rocket Mortgage is our sponsor today. A big company. Quicken Loans, the #2 lender in the country. Billions of dollars in loans, has created something just for geeks. When that happens, I have to celebrate it. Yay, they're thinking of us. They have created an entirely online home loan process, so you don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to go to the attic to find all the pay stubs and all the paperwork. You can do it all on your phone, on your laptop. You could do it on your phone at an open house and get loan approval in minutes from the best lender in the country, Quicken Loans. It's called Rocket Mortgage. It gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. You'll understand all the details. It's all very transparent. Because they have trusted financial partners, you can share your information with Rocket Mortgage easily with a touch of a button. And once they get that information, they can crunch those numbers fast because computers. Last home loan I got about 4 years ago, the guy actually had a calculator. And he had a sheaf of papers, and he was calculating what the amortization table on his super-duper calculator. I thought, this is not exactly 21st century technology here. Rocket Mortgage is, whether you're buying your first home or your 10th, they can calculate in minutes and give you a loan based on income, assets, and credit that's right for you, for a loan for which you qualify. You choose the term, you choose the rate, and you're done. You could do it at an open house and buy it right then and there. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states at MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Now, I know you may not be buying a house right this minute. I hope not. I hope you're just listening to us. But bookmark this site if you do, down the road, want to buy or refi. RocketMortgage.com/twit2. RocketMortgage.com/twit2. It's really a great idea. And we thank Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage for their support of This Week in Tech. So, Eugene Kaspersky is a very well-liked guy in the tech industry. I know so many people say, oh, he's great. I love Eugene. Kaspersky makes antivirus software. I remember Dvorak was his favorite software. He loved it. And then recently, was it the Department of Defense said, don't use Kaspersky antivirus because Kaspersky's known to have written software for the Russian FSB, the secret police. The Wall Street Journal this week published an article saying hackers working for the government, for the Russian government, stole confidential material. See, an NSA contractor, this keeps happening to the NSA. And it's just like Edward Snowden. An NSA contractor decided I think I'm going to bring all of this stuff home and put it on my personal computer that's loaded with Kaspersky antivirus. According to the Journal, the government believes, the NSA believes, that the Kaspersky AV scanning his computer found those documents. Maybe they were viruses created by the NSA, notified Kaspersky. Kaspersky notified hackers in the Russian government who then exfiltrated the stuff, maybe with the help of the Kaspersky software, it's unknown, and stole those, penetrated the NSA contractor's computer and stole the files. Now, it may be that Kaspersky had nothing to do with it, right? Best Buy in September stopped selling their software and offered free removals and credits toward competing packages. U.S. Department of Homeland Security directed all USA agencies to stop using Kaspersky products and services last month. Do you guys use Kaspersky antivirus? And yet I see Dan Gooden and Ars Technica and others defending Kaspersky, saying, well, we don't know. Not so fast, Dan writes. We don't know what really happened.
Are they defending the person or are they defending the software?
Well, they're defending Kaspersky, the company. But I think that I have to trace this back to the fact that Eugene Kaspersky, the founder, is a very genial, jovial guy who used to go to trade shows, CES and Comdex, bought drinks for people. Everybody loves Eugene Kaspersky. And I think they don't want to believe that this... But if you were a spy, wouldn't you buy drinks for everybody and be lovable and fun?
Con.
Right? Anyway, I I guess none of you are friends of Eugene Kaspersky and want to defend him. Kaspersky officials say Kaspersky Lab has not been provided any evidence substantiating the company's involvement in the alleged incident reported by the Journal. It's unfortunate that the news coverage of unproven claims continue to perpetuate accusations about the company. As a private company, Kaspersky Lab, which is in Russia, does not have inappropriate ties to any government, including Russia, and the only conclusion seems to be Kaspersky Lab is caught in the middle of a geopolitical fight.
Which is, the second part for sure is true. It almost doesn't matter at this point if the accusations are true or not. The fact that you're talking about a Russian-based security company just makes it difficult, if not impossible, for it to, in this environment, be on U.S. computers, especially computers used by the government.
I'm not going to use it.
I mean, Mac never used it, but
I
still.
don't use antiviruses anyway, because antiviruses inevitably open holes on your system more than they protect you.
They're less important than they used to be.
Yeah, that's the point.
But for Kaspersky, the company, it's a death knell. They're just like wrong location, wrong time and era, security company plus Russia.
So who would you trust more, Eugene Kaspersky or John McAfee?
I mean, Eugene Kaspersky, but that's just because
McAfee's
that's really hard.
But who would you back in a fight?
Maybe he'll be the Libertarian Party leader for the next election.
That's right. He wanted to run for president.
Oh, God.
Actually, Gooden does point out that the real story here is this is now the third time that private contractors have exfiltrated stuff from the NSA and either leaked it or lost it. So maybe NSA, you want to start thinking about your security? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Equifax says, no, it wasn't 143 million. It was 145.5 million.
It's everybody.
It's everybody.
And the CEO of Equifax in his testimony before Congress says, you know what? It boils down to one guy not doing his job.
Yeah, but not him.
Not me.
Not him.
Oh, no.
Not my
him.
fault.
He retired and took his nice $90 million retirement package.
It just makes my blood boil. And you really want your blood to boil? Because this is just unbelievable. The IRS has awarded Equifax a no-bid $7.25 million contract to help them keep track of the information that was leaked from Equifax.
What? Didn't anyone at the IRS just say stop?
The IRS's concern is that people will use the Equifax information to falsely apply for refunds. So who better to ask than the company that leaked the information to help them figure that out?
More face palming.
Oh,
so much face palming.
Yeah, that's all you can do. OMG. Elon Musk talking to the governor of Puerto Rico, or as our president would say, Puerto Rico.
Oh, God. Like 3 times.
3 times. It's so horrible.
Puerto Rico. To rebuild the grid. Now, this is actually an opportunity for Puerto Rico. They're going to have to rebuild their grid. It was completely knocked out by Hurricane Irma. Musk says, guess what? We could do it with solar and power walls, big batteries and solar. What do you think? Let's do it.
It's on Musk's part, it's brilliant to do that because
it's good. You can't lose.
You can't lose.
Great PR.
And if it works, then every state and every country will want it.
Isn't that always the opportunity, though? If you have no infrastructure, you can leapfrog and do something really smart.
Yeah.
It's not a bad deal at all for Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico.
Can't even. So Uber gets kicked out of London because they won't submit to fingerprints. Uber and Lyft kicked out of Austin because they said, no, you can't fingerprint our contractors. The state of California said, no, you know what? They're right. The Public Utilities Commission says, although we recognize the public's familiarity with fingerprinting, we do not see that a demonstrably greater level of safety would be added over and above the current background check protocols. The PUC says you don't have to do fingerprints. That was a bad idea. See, the public understands fingerprints and thinks that will help, but it turns out there's a lot of false positives. It isn't necessarily, proving that the person is connected to whatever crime that fingerprint's connected to. Fingerprint answers aren't the Fingerprint checks aren't the answer, says the PUC. I thought this was fascinating. It turns out it's the taxi commissions. Taxi drivers are generally required to give fingerprints in London, in Austin, and other places. It was the taxi commissions that said, why should we have to do it and not Uber and Lyft?
Which is a fair thing to ask. I mean, in New York City, for instance, all Uber drivers have to be approved by the Taxi and Limousine Commission. But Uber pays and Lyft, they basically pay the fees. But you have to be registered with the TLC. And
that's important because the TLC doesn't represent taxi drivers, right?
No. It just means that in order to have a car that can pick up passengers, you have to be registered with them.
Yeah,
and that's different from almost any other city that Uber operates in, and Lyft too, for that matter. And they made that concession because New York was such an important market. They fought in Austin and ended up being reinstated. And who knows what'll happen with London. London might be an important enough market that the Uber will change its policies. But it's a valid question for the taxi operators to say, why do our drivers have to follow these rules when the others don't, especially since the services for the most part are so similar.
It does feel like there's more to this story than I had thought. I just thought, well, why wouldn't they have fingerprints?
But why wouldn't Uber and Lyft just say, okay, we'll just do it?
Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do that? Well, apparently it's expensive. It's expensive. It's time consuming, and it has a high rate of false positives.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and it has a long and for them, you have to think of, okay, the big case in New York, again, is kind of an outlier market because, again, most of the people who drive in New York are professionals or at least trying to make their living kind of driving. Some other cities are like that too, but New York is one of the big ones. You have to think that the big value proposition for Uber and Lyft has always been, even though this is false, there's like a great game that I think Fast Company or someone made that actually shows how hard it is to like earn, money driving for these services, has been that anybody could kind of do it in their spare time. And the more friction you bring into the process, okay, now I have to be fingerprinted, now I have to go through this background check, I have to do that, the fewer people are going to be willing to be part of your ecosystem. Now, okay, all things said, Uber and Lyft, obviously, Uber more than Lyft, want to be in a place where self-driving taxis will pick everyone up anyway, right? But until we get to that point, you do need to have people willing to do it, and that it takes, the more red tape you put into it, the harder it is to have people willing to be your drivers. So,
all right, two things started 20 years ago this week. One's surviving, one's not.
Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger closing its doors, finally.
R.I.P.
Now, you're young enough, Christina. I bet you used AIM a lot when you were a teenager.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
I mean, Micah might be too young to have used it, but I know me and Benji for sure. Like
you and I were going back and forth on it. What was your username?
Film Girl?
Was it Film Girl on that? No,
I was TV Freak 998.
Mine was YGRPG. It stood for, I was a video game nerd. It stood for Yoshi Gino RPG from a video game I played.
Oh my God, I love it.
My daughter's 25 now, grew up on AIM. That was, instead of calling as high schoolers did when I was a kid, we actually had phones back then. They just used AIM to talk. But my son, who's 22, actually missed that. They didn't use AIM. By the time he was a teenager, they were using Skype and video chat and video conferencing and Google Hangouts and stuff. So it really was this kind of slice of time. Her just for completeness sake, her AIM handle was "got a bass, not a life," which I thought was good, except that she didn't play the bass. But anyway, it was clever. I liked it.
I can't remember mine. I'm sad about that. I didn't use it as much as some of my other friends did. All the time.
Yeah, you were on the tail end of it, probably.
Yeah. I turned 25 this year, so I was on the tail end. But we wrote a eulogy over at iMore about it because it's still sad to see it go, and there were good times for sure.
So, an ode to AOL Instant Messenger for Tori Folk from Mobile Nations. An ode. Is there actually a singing? Anything I could sing?
There should be. There should be a singing part.
There should be, because we would always set our away messages as song lyrics. Like that was always the thing, is that you could tell how emo someone was being based on what song lyric they were choosing as their away message.
Well, I like this though. Thanks, and this is kind of how it was on AIM. Thanks.
Isn't that clever?
No vowels for the Murray's AIM. And then a bunch of emoji. You don't really have emojis, hearts and pluses.
Unicode, characters,
In 1997 to 2007. You know what else was started in 1997? That my generation loves, Slashdot. Slashdot, Rob Malda, Commander Taco, wrote he doesn't have anything to do with Slashdot. It's been sold and other companies run it, but he wrote a really nice kind of history of Slashdot on Medium, on the Free Code Camp Medium feed. It was originally a section on his homepage called Chips and Dips. And eventually he decided, it was running static HTML, so eventually he decided to create something a little bit more sophisticated called slashdot.org. It was running on a DEC Alpha, of all things, which he got for free for skinning a Space Invaders clone. It was about a 486 speed, but it ran Linux, and he was pretty happy about that. Slashdot was almost immediately slashdotted, which is kind of ironic, but Slashdot was pretty amazing for many years. That was the source of tech news, and it's now 20 years old, but it's still alive, still going.
It is still alive. No, it's so interesting because, before there was Hacker News, before there was Reddit, before there was Dig, like Slashdot was the place, I mean, even Twitter to a certain extent, like that's where you would kind of go to figure out what was at least like in kind of the nerd sphere, the tech sphere. I know it's like a writer. I remember like when I first started writing professionally, like if a link up, on Slashdot, that was a big deal. And then it became like, Dig and Hacker News and Reddit and whatnot. But yeah, so funny.
I think, and in fact, I remember Kevin telling me, I think that Slashdot inspired Dig, because we use Slashdot on Tech TV all the time. So that gave him the idea to do Dig. And then Dig was very clearly, I think Alexis Ohanian told me this, the inspiration for Reddit. So it all really started way back here. And it's run, who runs, is it the, not sure who owns it these days.
It was sold, it's been sold a couple times.
It's SourceForge still. It's SourceForge, yeah.
So SourceForge owns it, or Biz?
Yeah.
I'm looking on the Wikipedia, which,
If someone bought it, like Dice bought it, but then sold it.
It says BizX owns it. I don't even know what that is.
Well, the irony of these sites is it doesn't really matter who owns it as long as they keep the code base working, because it's really a creation of the people who use it. So Slashdot today is not at all different from Slashdot 20 years ago. Pretty much.
Although you see kind of the same thing happen to Dig too, as you see like some of the users and the editors like migrate from one place to another, know, and so the community around it becomes important to keeping those things relevant. I mean, Rob Malda I think he left like 2011, I want to say is probably when he left Slashdot. But he was there for a really, really long time. And kind of went through, a bunch of the changes and it's even though it's not the same place it was and only certain people, I think, kind of like still hang on and kind of go to Slashdot every day. Like I certainly don't visit it ever unless, like something like this happens and I see it. Weirdly, I saw it on Hacker News, right? I saw the Slashdot link but I was like, oh man, yeah, that was such of its time and such an important part, I think, of like news culture and internet culture. And it's awesome that it still exists after 20 years and that the people like Rob are still able to kind of share the oral history, so to speak, of how it came to be.
And finally, this was a bad week to be 66 years old. First, Tom Petty passed away, and then a couple of days ago, the former CEO of Intel, Paul Otellini, passed away at the age of 66. He oversaw a very big growth era for Intel, but also was there when Intel kind of missed the boat on mobile. Yeah. So while I think you could say his reign from 2005 to 2013 was pretty successful, maybe he didn't set the best tone for the future of Intel. Intel's revenues went to $53 billion at the end of his tenure from $34 billion before he started. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of This Week in Tech. I want to thank you guys. You're fun. Everybody must come back. I started this saying it was going to be a weird one, and you guys did not disappoint. Thanks to Micah Sargent. He's the senior editor at Mobile Nations, MIKAHSARGENT on Twitter. And, of course, you can hear his multiple podcasts, including the cartoon podcast, cartoon cast that he's resurrected with his partner, Christina Warren, film girl, who's also with us today, now at Microsoft. But you know what? That hasn't slowed her down one bit. Senior cloud dev advocate. You can catch her work soon on Channel 9. Yay.
Yay.
Yay. And Ben Parr, he's a longtime Mashable guy, along with Christina. They will get the Mashable alum team on here. Also the author of a book called Captivology. He's now co-founder at a company called Octane.ai and an investor. And it's great to see you. What is Captivology about?
It's about the science and psychology of attention. And why do we pay attention to all these things?
I should have spent more time asking you about that, because that's what we were talking about, wasn't it?
This is the core of my research.
Yeah. You even talk about politicians and how they sell their agenda using these techniques.
Framing.
Yeah, framing. Well, everybody should read it. The Science of Capturing People's Attention, Captivology. It's in paperback now, too. Yep. But I happen to have an early hardback edition. Thank you all for being here. We do This Week in Tech every Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC. Please stop by and say hi. You can watch live at twit.tv/live. If you do, join us in the chat room at irc.twit.tv. And we also have an open studio policy, so if you'd like to be in the studio audience, you're more than welcome. We do ask, if you want to visit the studio, that you email tickets@twit.tv. Our studio schedule is changing a little bit, and I don't want you to come here and not be able to get in. So there are days, I think Monday is one of them, we won't be open at all anymore. So please do, just email tickets@twit.tv. We'll send you directions. We'll make sure that we're open at that time, and we'll put a chair out for you. We'd love to have you, though. It's always great to have a live studio audience while we do the show. If you can't be here in person, if you can't be here watching the stream or in the chat room, you can always get on-demand versions of all of our shows. Yes, you can ask your favorite speech assistant, and in most cases, it'll work. If you have an Echo, just say, Echo, listen to This Week in Tech on TuneIn. TuneIn's the provider on the Echo. You can also listen to our live stream, Echo, listen to Twit Live on TuneIn, and you'll be able to hear whatever is going on in the studio at any given moment. You can also go to our website, twit.tv, download episodes, or subscribe using your favorite podcast catcher. Number 1 is still iTunes. Number 2 now is Pocket Casts, which is interesting. And then there's Overcast and Stitcher and Slacker and a lot of other platforms. But we do like it if you subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit.
This is amazing.
He's in the can. Bye.